Ron's there? He's still over there? Hello, I'm talking to you. I don't know what to do. Am I? Okay. Okay, okay. That way. Okay. I think it's your time. Okay. I think.
After it's posted.
Meeting was for the YouTube.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you can take it there. Okay, then you already posted the last meeting.
Y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This is notice of workshop meeting, Board of Navigation, Canal Commissioners, Willis County Navigation District, Tuesday, April 29th, 9 a.m. at the Willis County Navigation District Boardroom, 400 West Hidalgo, Suite 200, Raymondville, Texas. Public notice is given that the commission is conducting a workshop meeting of the Navigation and Canal Commissioners. It is given that the commission may go into an executive session at any time during the meeting to discuss matters listed on the agenda when authorized to do so by the provisions of section 418.183 or chapter 551 of the Texas Governmental Code. In the event the commission elects to go into an executive session regarding any agenda item, the presiding officer will publicly announce the section or sections of the Texas Government Code authorizing the executive session. Review and discussion and development of the WCND fiscal year 25-26 operating budget. If you don't mind.
Yeah.
Well, where do y'all want to start? At the top?
Where did we left off?
I don't remember where we left off.
We've covered potential expenses, correct? Kinda. Kinda. No, we're not done with that one.
No.
So and then we need to cover revenues afterward.
Yes, I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah,
We don't know how much to spend, we don't know how much we've got.
exactly. Good morning.
Morning.
Just again.
Snuck in.
One thing everybody should be aware of, and that the residential lease income. Second page, second line from the top. 380,
Mm-hmm.
that's actually gonna be more like 200. And here's the reason. The new rates for leases won't be mailed out until April of next year, April 26th. Well, our fiscal year ends May 31st. So odds of us collecting that extra money is gonna be small. I mean, it'll fall into the 26 budget,
Yeah.
100%, but not into this, in the 26, 27, I guess.
Yeah, and that, yeah, they cross over the collections and the budget.
We won't even have it on the books as viable income stream until we actually mail the invoices out.
So let me, to repeat that again, Steve. So
The
the,
new lease rate won't be mailed out until March of 26.
26.
Our budget runs through May
May
31st.
31st.
So that only leaves 30 days to try and get that much money in the mail.
And it won't. Okay.
So just keep in mind that, all of that income's not gonna be there.
Till the end of the year.
To the end of the year, the next May, or to the end of the year, like January?
No.
Into,
Our
Fiscal-
fiscal year goes May.
May to May.
We won't get it till what, April or May.
Mail it out in March and you'll get some of it probably in April, but the
Yeah.
majority of it will probably come in after another budget cycle.
So we can't count it as income till we get it.
our fiscal year is from June through May 31st.
June 1, May 30.
May 31st. Okay,
If you wanted to do it on accrual, you could count it.
The bank will accrue it in our account.
I mean,
no, they won't.
All the rest of the commercial leases is not gonna be, because they go out multiple times during the year.
Quarterly and.
Semi, so feel comfortable, we'll probably collect all of that.
Simply in a bigger font so you can see it.
How would we rectify this? So you can coincide with the current budget.
How do we do what? No, that's what we account for it.
How for? I mean, will we have to change the,
I think it's just the roll of the dice. I mean, you can take what we actually received this year,
yeah,
and, if you want to lump that up to 200 instead of 193, probably reasonable, but we're not gonna get that 380 just due to time factor.
well, it's been like that forever.
Yeah, it's been like that. Fiscal year's been like that. I can remember, I guess.
well, there hadn't been any,
You've
hadn't been any changes though. So now we're making changes, so it's gonna be a different rate.
In a perfect world, we'd have had all of that done, December.
Yeah.
And so it could have been billed out.
March.
Yeah, and if you look at any organization's budget, I know mine's, they overlap.
Yeah,
Like it's just the nature of the beast.
yeah, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, so, but for planning purposes, if we can look at it and say, okay, within this time and that time, how much money is gonna come in, because that's gonna affect your cash flow for those months that you don't get that revenue
Right.
in.
From December to March, there's
Exactly.
really no cash.
Pretty much, probably about 99%.
Is in March.
Yeah, by the time we get to.
Well, we actually get it in April, right? Typically March and April is when we start receiving it, later March and April. It's when almost.
Mail them in March and then,
so we get-
April and May,
Commercials in January.
Yeah, January for commercial.
December.
January.
But
With
residential.
the residential, which is a big chunk of money,
And
we
you-
start getting it in end of May, end of March, early May.
Commercials we'll get December and January. And then we'll get them in June, July to August.
That's the commercial.
Yes. We get them twice a year.
Okay.
And those are okay because
Yeah.
we get two pots of
That's
Yeah.
right.
money, but
That's right.
it's the residentials.
Right. The residential,
That-
we don't see it until
We have
March.
both stalls and
They come in
There you
January,
go.
December, January. Yeah.
June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, 10 months
Yeah,
with, even though our book says we have quote unquote 380, that's not
we're not
true.
gonna have it. Yeah,
I just
But, okay,
That
So why are we putting 380 if we're not?
Because-
We'll have for the year.
for the year, but we don't get it till the latter part of the fiscal
Last
year.
quarter of the year. is
We
when you-
won't have it to spend,
Yeah.
Right. So, but,
basically.
Yeah.
but again, do we, if we're barely getting last year's money,
Yeah, started getting it last month.
Yeah, but the difference is how much?
well,
$100,000?
yeah.
Yeah, 186,000.
Yeah.
So, and that maybe that's what we should put in the books.
Well,
That's
I
what
think,
we're.
I think what's on there is actual, 193, 573.
There you go.
Probably be
What we
good
should
just
use,
to
yeah.
assume that's about what we're gonna get.
We have a
Or if you wanna round it up to 200, round it up.
Yeah.
I would feel more comfortable doing that because if you look at the timeline, we're budgeting, we're doing a June 1 to May 31st, but this money that we say we're gonna get, we don't get it till May.
Right.
Why are we counting on it here?
Right.
What we should count is the money that's overlapped over here, which is about $200,000.
Next year budget will,
Be
you can use that number.
Exactly, whatever the actual was. I think that's the way to do it. Otherwise, you think you have enough money and your checks are gonna bounce.
Yeah. So-
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's the way we need to do it.
because then if you have that as 380, your expenditures, you're gonna try to expense that, and that's not right. That's not true,
Right.
right? Right. Okay.
And we're looking at those hypothetical numbers that should be there, but may not be there. Two more down, it talks about proceeds coming in from potentially leasing lots in the Newport subdivision. I listed it, potentially release 6 lots. That's $400,000. Are we gonna get 6 lots? I don't know. Are we gonna get 16 lots? I don't know. So I put the number in on the perspective of what I believe we will get, but that may not happen.
Yeah,
I would
think we
treat
can
that,
do it on what we think's gonna come in.
No,
We need to know what we're gonna
Certain.
get. And if that comes in, then that's just.
it's extra.
Yep.
Yeah, because the
how we
minute
carried
you
it in
put
the
it in your revenue, you're gonna want to expense it, and that is not true. So we shouldn't.
Kinda like Wimpy and the hamburger.
Yeah.
Glad for you too.
Yeah, I don't think we can bet on that.
So we'll just leave that one at 0.
So I would, and that was,
That's the 3 lines down says 480,000. That's just a projection on leasing out 6 lots, but that's it, again, it was just a projection. So.
I would not put that in the
Okay.
budget.
No.
Yeah. That's fine.
Send out some tax stuff from the county, huh?
Yes, it's on there. It's in your folder.
Yeah.
I sent it out also, but
Yeah.
it
Right. Papers, I
yeah, it
guess.
shows all the taxing districts in the county and
Yeah.
it shows the tax
That-
rate for us.
Yeah, levy tax, that's what we got on the budget, what the county provided.
655,794.
Do we, what percent are we on collection?
Well, this year we've collected 637, so we're within $20,000 of what they projected.
And they don't tell us what the percentage that we didn't collect.
I can ask it and they will eventually give me an answer. It's been in the mid to upper 90% forever since I've been here. It's not too bad.
It needs to be around 97, 98.
Yeah, I think it stays around.
Preferably 98.
Yeah,
92 is what that indicates.
Is it 92? See, that's low.
Yeah, it is low.
There may be some stragglers left to come in.
Yeah.
exactly.
We don't know.
Yeah, it's
It's
kind
not
of a,
late until June.
it's kind of a moving target.
June 1 is,
So if somebody does not pay their taxes.
no, and we've asked them,
About it until the county goes after them.
well, then the county won't go after land in Port Mansfield because it's in our name.
Well, I
Well,
don't, so we'll never
We'll
know.
never know. I've asked them every 2 years since I've been here, hey, give us a list and we'll help you because it says right in the lease that we can cancel a lease for non-payment of ad valorem. It says it right in the lease. And so I've offered a dozen times and they've never provided me that list ever.
Well, why don't we use last year's number, 637,
Actual,
huh?
yeah, the actual last.
The actual last year.
Yeah. Letty can verify. I'm constantly asking them to give us that list and they never.
That way we know, if we get a little more than that, then that's good.
Yeah, sure.
The boat stall utilities is probably not gonna change a whole lot.
No, that doesn't fluctuate.
Miscellaneous. I know we had that VTX one check.
Right.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but I mean, what are you forecasting that 25? What goes in there?
That has always been the monies that Letty collects for permitting, transferring leases, that kind of stuff. That's the odd monies that come in that we don't have a spot for. That's what it's always been over the years. That's why.
Are you in miscellaneous income?
Yeah,
It was 241 last year because of VTX.
Oh, because of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hear
they
you.
give everybody the big.
But if you were to remove that, it's-
Well, and this year I budgeted 25 because that's what I always budget, 24, 25.
The debris fees, we already discussed what we were gonna increase that to?
Yes, it already does. It says.
yeah, I think that's the new rate.
Yeah, 48,578 is the new rate.
Yeah.
Didn't, we came up with a number? I thought we had,
75.
Mhm.
If you want
50 to
$75.
But, you know,
we're gonna look at it to see
Yeah.
what
yeah, but, you know,
cost
I
for
gotta,
June meeting. For June meeting, yeah, we hadn't said it yet.
no,
Mm-mm.
you know,
We were supposed to look at it here and
Mhm.
determine a new rate.
Yeah, I know one of them we were supposed to.
It was tabled.
yeah, I even think that $75 a year is way too low.
Mhm.
You know,
what do you pay, you said?
I pay,
You said it was 370 or something, right?
yeah, a year.
I think it's too low for the amount of times that the truck goes out
No,
a week. So that's what I
It's
think.
just one time a week that they pick up my trash.
It's like once a month, isn't it?
That's
it
the
trash or
debris.
trash or
That's
debris?
the debris.
Oh, the debris is once a month. This is
Yeah.
the debris. They pick up the debris weekly, right?
correct. That's
Twice a week or what?
man, actually, to some extent. If somebody's got a big pile of stuff where they did a remodel. it's-
Yeah, I think that needs to be more than 75.
Well, you know, I think, Eric brought that up, that if you hire somebody, a contractor, that contractor, even in Raymondville has,
Yeah, they're responsible for removing it.
That is.
but in Raymondville, they'll charge you contractor's fee. If you leave everything there and then it becomes a nuisance, they're going to pick it up and then they're going to charge you.
That is correct. Yeah.
Well, most of the contractors in Port have those dump trailers. And I haven't seen
No, haven't had-
any sign of Jack Ficklin or any of those guys abusing that. I mean, they're really good about hauling their stuff off.
It's not.
But
But going back to the 48,578,
I
mean-
think that bond $75 versus $50.
You got it,
Remember last year
right.
was on $50.
but think about it. The truck that we
Oh,
bought
it's gonna take
cost
4
us
years to pay for the truck. It's about 180,000.
180,000. So it's 180,000, 5 years.
And then you have salaries and
Exactly.
compensation and fuel.
Exactly.
They have to drive all the way to Edinburgh. to
That
dump.
$75 ain't cutting it.
Yeah, maintenance.
Sorry, but it's not.
It's not, I agree.
I don't.
No, we need to really up that one. And if you're not meeting your cost, you're not doing the right thing.
They-
Absolutely.
It's not about making a profit. Maybe funding some depreciation for replacements, but at least you gotta come close to meeting that
Right.
that
The
cost.
$75 doesn't even cover the labor
Hmm.
costs.
No, we
Anything,
we
48,000.
definitely need to put that one on the agenda for the next
I
meeting.
think every time I looked at that bill last month for the dump in Edinburgh, and they have one rate for trash and one rate for
Debris.
Mhm.
And it seemed like, if I remember right, it's around $65 per
For
load
low,
for debris.
They don't necessarily go every week.
No.
They'll wait till the truck's full.
Right.
And then they'll go. So it might be 2 weeks and sometimes maybe 3 weeks before they go dump.
Yeah,
Sometimes
It's a pretty good sized
a
truck.
Couple times a week, depending
No,
on.
it could be.
Yeah. But I think one thing, be my suggestion to the board is that we try and move, that responsibility back to the board. Back
To the
to
PUD.
Frank and Sue, and, cause what's happening is the guy driving the truck, He's just trying to do the best job he
Yeah,
can.
he doesn't.
Keep everybody clean,
different-
you know?
Yeah,
Guy's great, but when you go in and apply for a permit to remodel, we need to say, okay, are you doing this, or are you hiring somebody, a company or something? Maybe have different colored paper.
We're already working, we already have one color, we're working on getting the other one so we can do exactly that.
Then if it's tagged up there and that guy says, ooh, that's purple.
They're required to put up,
Set up.
they're required to post the permit or authorization form, we call it. And once they posted it, that means it's okay to do the work. So Frank sees that, he knows it's cool,
Right,
but it doesn't delineate for the driver who's doing the work.
right.
And so,
and that's come up several
Oh, yeah,
times. in the
absolutely.
Past.
yeah, we've actually gone to people's houses and stuff.
People actually got onto the driver because he wasn't picking their stuff up. Well, he didn't know that.
Yeah,
That they
That
did it
wasn't a
themselves.
contract.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, so we've already,
Anyway,
Some type of signage.
we're already working on it.
Yeah.
We're
Okay.
well on the way to get that.
Good.
But
That there's a great.
yeah,
So what do y'all want to propose?
But the number here is only a proposal based upon a 75. If you want to make it $200, don't matter, but I base the budget on a 25.
well,
Yeah, 'cause that's what we discussed.
That's correct.
what makes sense to me is take that project,
Mhm.
what, put in the cost of the truck, what's the depreciation, what's the cost of labor, gas, dump, do a cost analysis.
Mhm.
What is it costing us?
To operate it.
And then we can come up with
Okay.
a rate,
We can
a
do it.
feasible
That's what we
rate.
need.
And you need to figure in about 20% a year for wear and tear on the truck.
Well, that's the depreciation of the truck.
I think that's what we figured on our trucks,
Yeah.
about 20% a year.
I mean,
5 years.
5 years, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with Commissioner
Mm-hmm.
Trevino because this will have to come back as a separate agenda item.
right,
Yes.
Yeah,
No action today because
Correct.
of the workshop.
but we can,
But you can,
yeah, if we can get
Okay.
those numbers.
Yeah, we'll have it before next
We'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting
Yeah,
and we'll,
definitely.
Yeah.
Let's put the pencil to this
Yeah.
thing.
Well, let's go with that. Here's what we need to do. We need to figure out where we are on the bottom line and then go
Yeah.
back and say, what do we need to cut, or, how much would that bring to the table if we go, instead of 75, we go to 100?
Well, because we need to have it for the budget, right? I mean, for the end.
yeah,
Correct.
that'll be a fairly small adjustment there.
Not gonna be.
But it shouldn't affect it a
No.
lot.
No. So going back to the ad valorem tax collection,
Mhm.
we've collected 637, 423 out of 655.
Well,
Out of 690.
690 is what they made us last year. They expect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh,
number.
I see, I
The
see.
number on the front is what they're projecting
Got
this
it.
year.
I was looking at the wrong column.
Well, and since I don't go to their board meetings, I don't really understand overall why the amount collected or collected amounts went down or going down instead of up. I mean, I understand that property rates in Texas are changing and they're trying to do away with them altogether. But that number, why it decreased for the last 2 years, it was at one time 720,000 was projected. Now it's down to 650.
Well, I just got mines and mines went up.
Did it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
By
our
about 15.
our tax rate in
Those
the
are
past
property values.
was
Yeah.
720,000.
Yeah.
So.
And Texas is terrible on property values.
Absolutely not. They're known.
I live in
Nation.
Brazoria County. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Glory for it.
We have to protest them every year.
That number is what they provide us. That's what that paper is in front of you.
Yeah, so we use that 637 number. We should be safe with that.
Yeah. And again, going back to the issue of not knowing, I mean, at 92% is low,
It is.
but we don't know. We don't have this ongoing information about our tax collection other than when we see the final numbers.
Correct.
And that's,
It's almost impossible to get it out of them.
He's even been trying to get stuff they even won't provide.
Yeah, my wife went last meeting while we were in executive session. She went back to the tax office to try to get numbers broke down by precinct. They don't know how to do it.
so I know when I was in La Sara, they were wanting to collect it for the school district and we said, no, we want to know how much we're collecting. And we didn't go with the county.
Right.
Other entities did, but we didn't.
Yeah.
For the same purpose of knowing what our tax collection
Yeah,
was.
sometime around 12 or 15 years ago, They changed here. It used to be the navigation just collected its own taxes. But the problem is when you're collecting it, people just ignore it and they become long drawn out issues. So they said, well, if the county does it, people are willing to pay all their taxes. So they'll pay all their taxes, but they won't pay each individual agency. Oh, I don't want to pay STISD. My kids don't go there and they don't pay it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to pay the navigation district. So they put it in with everybody else. So it became one collection point. And they do a fantastic job collecting for us. I'm not bad mouthing them that at all. The problem is we want to help them.
At 92%, that's not a fantastic job.
Well, it's what they're getting. So
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they're not collecting, they're just getting.
that's right. Well, that's true. They're not going
Because
after-
we've had to get collecting entities,
Yeah.
agencies
Yeah,
to
yeah.
go after them
Mhm.
to up that collection rate. And of course, there's a cost to that.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
No, that's true. From that perspective.
yeah, okay.
Sound like we might need to visit with the tax assessor collector.
Yeah, that would be great. And she's brand new.
That's who Rhonda talked to
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, we'll try, we'll see what we can do.
Munoz is his last name. I don't know.
Melissa.
Melissa.
Yes.
Yeah, seems to be a really nice lady, so
She's,
I
like I
think
said, she's
she'll-
brand new. She's
we'll
trying.
try to figure out something to,
Yeah, let's try to work with her and see what we can
Yeah.
come up with.
Yeah, she's just trying to dig out of a hole she inherited.
yeah.
So tell us, Ron, about this grant repayment, this 186.
Yeah, we've already, this is for the Seawalk project. And
That's the first.
that's the first installment, yes. And that will come back to us in about 5 weeks. So, this company, this Russell Marine, they're very, very experienced on working on grants, so they know exactly what to do. So they will every month or at the end of the month, they'll send it out, okay, this is this month work. Oh, this is this month work. Unlike in the past where you might not get a bill for 2 months or 3 months and then you get 2 bills in a month and they're not like that. They're
Yeah,
very-
and
Get it kicked on to you.
yeah, exactly.
And we've discussed this a little bit before.
Yeah.
We need to actually get with them and make sure that they're billing us every month.
Oh, no,
Regular.
I guarantee you they are. We've already got the second notice from
And you know what I don't understand is they've been there, what, 2 months
2
now?
months.
And we only get a bill for $186,000 on a $7 million job.
And almost $9 million job.
Yeah, I mean, so
Yeah.
we're gonna get a invoice next month for $2 million.
And we are still waiting to hear back from the bank. I'm sure it's not going to be an issue. I've already taken all the paperwork, all the reports, everything they needed to update our file at First Community. And they've already still turned it over to their loan department. They told me last Thursday that within a week I should have answered. So hopefully by tomorrow I'll know that they're going to give us the $3 million.
And we're gonna use that as our
As a float.
line of credit
That's
for
correct.
our cash flow to
That's
pay
correct.
these.
That's correct.
And then we need to get a quick reimbursement.
Right. The quickest reimbursement we can expect is 60 days if everything works ideally. But I told the bank, I told them there may be occasions that it goes 100 because it has gone 120 days. But if everything works perfectly and we submit the payment when we get it, it goes to the state. The state has a week or 10 days to process it and review it and kick it back, which is what they've done historically a lot. But if after they process it, then the state has 30 days to pay the bill. So
Okay, one thing we're gonna have to consider too is the interest on that money.
whatever that is, but
Yeah.
the last time when they wanted to actually give us a loan, $3 million loan, it was 7%, but we're not pursuing.
We don't want a loan, we want a line of credit. No reason to pay interest on money we're not using.
We have to be diligent though about when we receive funds back.
Oh, no,
They
absolutely.
go directly back
Well, what
again.
we will do is we will draw off, they'll create an account for us, I'm sure, with this line of credit, and we'll draw the checks off that account and we'll have the state pay back to that account. So
It'll be
it'll,
like a lockbox.
yeah, exactly.
I just,
Yeah, that's what'll happen.
it'd be easy to dump it in M&O or.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just
Well,
you mistakenly do it. Yeah, exactly. But
The
no.
bank's probably gonna want that.
Safeguarded for that.
Reduce that interest as much as possible.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know how we estimate what the interest is gonna be, but I mean, we gotta put it somewhere.
I would think it's probably gonna be around 7%.
But it
Maybe
won't
now.
fluctuate.
And if it's a line of credit, doesn't that,
It goes up
It
and down.
goes up and down.
it's not,
It's probably tied to some treasury,
I'm sure it is. There's a treasury bond that goes
2
to.
points over.
Over prime.
That's right. That's why the last one was 7% because it was 2 points. over.
It's pretty typical.
Yeah.
2% over prime.
Yeah.
well, you're gonna have to do a good guesstimate of what that layover is gonna be and how much interest rate it
Well, you can estimate it on 7 million,
Yeah, I guess, if you, yeah.
somewhere around there. So 7%, 7 million for,
Mm, well, but that,
$500,000.
yeah,
well, it's
but that,
gonna go up and down. though.
yeah,
It's
but
not gonna be the full amount.
no, because, no, it's not because they're gonna bill you in
Yeah.
part. So it's not 7 million, it's a part of
That's correct.
that.
It might be,
That's to
Yeah.
get going on that, so I wouldn't be surprised that when they say we're done, that we're still sitting there with.
We'll have them.
don't want that.
Yeah, it'll be sitting out there.
Yeah.
That's correct.
That's why we need to communicate with them that, you know, go ahead and bill us.
Oh,
Once
yeah.
we get our line, bill us $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's get it rolling.
Yeah, well, last week when I gave them that $185,000, we had a discussion about it.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll be doing this on this date, everything will happen on, I think they said the 30th of every month, and it'll be a cycle. Like I said, these guys are professionals at working with grants, which we have not had the ability to deal with in the past, and we've had all kinds
And
of
we actually have a different engineering.
engineering firm that's process, is our project manager is.
Yeah, I'm not happy at all with Ferris and Flynn.
not-
They
All right.
get too comfortable.
Yeah.
So you'll, again, you'll
We'll figure.
put some numbers in
Yes,
there
yes.
that based on what our discussion.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hopefully I have an answer by tomorrow about what they're gonna do.
So got any more revenue questions?
Think so. I don't.
Get to the fun part.
Yeah.
Boat stall leases, did we make an adjustment
Yes,
of
we did.
5%?
Yes, on both basically there's the ones that are the main port saw and the ones at Mansfield Point, both, I adjusted both of them up 5%.
Oh, yeah, I see.
And I was telling Ron and Steve that I'm working on, I've contacted 5 different marinas. And I'm waiting on numbers to come back because kind of leery about giving them to you over the phone. Well, do you really want to rent one or are you just fishing, you know? So,
Yeah.
hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have what rates other ports are getting for
What the market is.
Fleets, yeah. And
Yeah.
I got a feeling we're gonna be really surprised where we're at.
Yeah.
But anyways, we can deal with that later. Just give us an idea for next year.
But I, as we're thinking of this thing, I look at that slush fund that we have for repairs and maintenance or whatever.
Mhm.
And that was in lieu of buying insurance. But we need to be careful that we don't wipe that out
Correct.
because if we get one of those storms and we're in deep trouble. Again, similar to the,
Sleep over.
Yeah.
Concerned about that.
Exactly, but similar to the debris truck, it's what is it costing us?
Correct.
What kind of repairs? Because I've heard that there's some, and we walked there a while back, and there's some repairs that need to be done. What is that gonna cost us?
Mhm.
And how do we budget that? How do we adjust our rates so that we're able to meet those expenses?
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
Are we doing those boat, do we put it all together or can we just say, okay, we're gonna do this boat stalls, this amount of boat stalls, let's say 10.
That's what, but
where was?
Yeah,
the small boat basin money that I put aside, I target it as basically as one of the slips a year needs some kind of major repair.
Well, yeah, either B,
B, C, D, E.
yeah,
oh,
you
okay,
have to do a whole dock.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, in many cases we do.
Right now, it's D.
Yeah.
The roof's coming off of one of the.
now,
You know, let's keep in mind though, your best insurance against destruction by wind, storms or whatever is to keep your regular maintenance up.
Especially in.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's on the roof.
exactly.
And we got down there on D dock, you got a piece of the ridge cap that's peeled back about 3 or 4 feet already.
Yeah.
And we hadn't had any big winds. You know, we've had some 30, 35 mile an hour winds. But it's just screws, you know, rot out and.
Yeah.
So,
Wear and tear.
so it needs to be fixed.
And you checked into that fund, the description on it.
Yes, I did.
It
It
can be a-
is, it's called an improvement fund. It's not an emergency fund.
Oh,
Okay.
we're okay.
And I agree that it should be stayed away from as much as we can.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and if we're using it, which nothing wrong with that, we've got to make sure we,
We gotta
Replenish-
replenish it.
replenish
That's right. Yeah,
And that's the differential in the insurance fund.
that's correct. No, if we had insurance on our TML, our prices would almost quadruple. I mean, that was stuff that was corrected and made affordable back when Mr. Brown was as an insurance man negotiated with TML. He said, I can't touch it. That's on I can't afford to insure you guys. So we've got TML involved and everybody else. And that's how we ended up with, okay, we're just going to create our own fund to stick money in so we can fix this ourselves if things come, go
Right.
down.
And obviously, they're not enough to rebuild all of them if
No,
we're
not
not
at
a
all.
catastrophic event.
Well, we've been fortunate, the last big storm we had was about 115 mile an hour.
Yeah, just before I got here,
Very little damage
They
anywhere.
re-roofed the whole place. They took money from that fund to do that re-roofing. They took out 300 and some odd $1,000 to re-roof it. But it's taken this many years to build it back to the 400 and something thousand because we only put like $60,000 a year in.
And that's
Just one roof or that was?
No, that did the whole thing.
Yeah, they did all the docks, yeah.
But that was 14 years ago.
And that's where we need to look at what's the market price for these
So-
things around and then adjust ours because, I mean, business,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you gotta cover those expenses.
Yeah, well, we've already pretty much stacked hands on increasing this incrementally.
Yeah.
Wayne Davis stopped by the other day and after we had mentioned the 5%, and he was like, 5%, I don't have a problem at all with that. He said, because you go to other places and it's way higher.
Yeah.
But, we don't want to jack it up, so high where nobody wants to mess with it, or we get a lot of pushback on it. But, if we go up a little bit every year, I don't think it'd be a big.
And that was the plan, is an incremental increases.
Yeah. It just announce what that plan is. Hey, ultimately, we're gonna get to $10,000 or whatever, we'll incrementally increase it until we get there.
And hope.
Well, and
the best in
And hope for
between.
the best with the weather.
Docks are old, and it's not in, perfect conditions down there. So,
The Dead Sea.
my house is a metal building. It doesn't look like it, but it's got a metal roof. And I've already changed the screws out 3 times in the last 10 years on the roof. Go up there and change out every screw.
And how often do we do every year? You do a section? Is that what
No,
you said?
The docks we do.
The docks every year?
Here we took a different one and we do.
We kind of do the roofs as we need
Yeah, the
to.
roofs is as needed because they did a major redo 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But we're getting to the point it's needs some touch ups. So the small boat maintenance of 50,000 is that's just what we are averaging, so.
So Ron, you comfortable with these, wages and salaries?
Yes, I think we'll be okay with those numbers. We are gonna do a couple of individual reviews. We have a couple of people due to licensing and stuff are pretty critical to us or key personnel. And we just need to, between us and the PUD, need to talk about what we can do to make sure those people don't get tempted to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think one of them is mostly PUD.
Yes,
Yeah,
in fact, 100%.
Yeah.
But there could be one or two others that may end up falling into that mix that we need to review them as individuals. But as a blanket across the board cost of the thing, I'm content with what we have.
On the police department?
Yes, sir.
We're not looking at adding any.
That we're gonna bring on it. We're gonna bring on another reservist, but reservists don't get paid. We carry their credentials for them. That's what it comes down to.
They have to put in so many
Yeah.
hours to get.
Yeah, they have to work between
Credited.
21 hours a month, I think is what we require. And that way they keep their we carry their credentials for them. And so they work for free for those 21 hours. But we're not gonna bring on another pay officer.
Okay. So,
I just had that conversation 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago with David. So
it looks like we're gonna have some, extra vehicles then. We just bought two.
correct. We have two for $2,000. So yeah. I guess we got 3 for $2,000 because the pickup truck didn't cost us anything. So.
Right. So we're gonna dispose of them, sell them. or-
Oh, well, we've already got rid of the old Crown Vic, just
Yeah.
gave away for scrap. The Explorer got turned into the Harbor Master's vehicle, so we didn't have to pay for mileage.
Right.
And
Got the Jeep.
we have the Jeep that we don't use much anymore occasionally. But the reason is because it's has a
high water vehicle and
Well,
all.
has a rust issue, so we're constantly having to, like, you saw the thing border collision last
I
month.
have a Jeep.
Yeah, so they, they're a nightmare. So, but the advantage to it is if we ever have a really high water situation, it's the only vehicle they have that they can respond into high water or anything like that. So we're keeping it kind of as a reserve vehicle. At nighttime, sometimes we do have 2 officers at a time. So those 2 new vehicles, one of them is already in service and being used. The other one's just kind of sitting there.
Where is it sitting? I hadn't seen
I
it.
think that they have it stored in the sheds, the warehouse is my understanding.
Oh,
Yeah. But they're still got to do the process of
They got it-
stickers and
the signage on it and everything.
the Tahoe has not gotten to it yet. Yeah.
Well, I
The only other vehicles we have are pickup trucks.
beat a fly to death with a sledgehammer, but why are we having storage? Why did we even buy it if we're gonna put it in storage? I mean, you know,
Yes, sir. I get that. And he is going to use it. He just hasn't
Yeah.
put the money into that. Yes. So.
It costs about another $2,500 to get it on the road. Time you get signage on it and radio and all that stuff, so.
But we have the chief's pickup truck, the sergeant's pickup truck,
Jeep
the Jeep, and then the 2 new cars.
and the Ford truck. The gray.
Oh, the silver gray one.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about that one. So I'll talk to him
But
after.
anyway, it seems like we got about 7 vehicles.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Got 4 people on
Right.
payroll, so
Right.
seems to me we could turn a couple of those into cash.
Yeah. Okay, we'll figure what we do.
Even if we sell one to pay for badging and
The
the
other,
pile.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The other thing too is now that the new road is in, when you drive behind the warehouses, it's stacked full of junk. There's 2 big old trucks back there that need to be gone
Yeah.
and,
Do a surplus sale,
yeah, or just,
get rid of
I
it.
told him to get rid of it from scrap,
yeah,
take it to the scrap
Grab
yard.
Snake Haven.
Yeah, exactly.
they need to be gone. Okay, back to the budget.
Yeah.
We got off on something else, but
So you're saying, 390 on administrative? I'm looking at the right number when we paid actually.
We paid 406 last year, but some of that is overtime that we had to put in for a project that we won't have to do again. So I think we're doing fine. And almost all the money that goes in administrative is law enforcement. The 3 people here, we don't hardly take an impact on that at all. Almost all that other money is law enforcement. I just have to tell David to rein in his overtime. That's another reason why he's bringing on a new guy at no cost, so he can have a better coverage at no cost.
and I met with David the other day about his part of the budget and, just kind of told him, hey, you need to try to stay within it. And
He's done that very well.
yeah, and he's done a good job with it and kind of, I know they're gonna have overtime, but try to keep it to a minimum if we can.
And so our burden rate on that appears to be using actual number 27%. I'm thinking 24. That 27 is still fine. I don't
Yeah.
have a problem with that, but we talked about insurance. And you said that we've jumped
Yeah.
around a couple of
Had
companies.
to jump around for the last 3 budget years, mid-year, because what we do every single time when we go and negotiate with these people who bring in these ideas in medical insurance, we tell them, our fiscal year is June 1st. We need pricing for June 1st. And they, oh yeah, so they give you the initial price. But then December comes around and they're like, oh, well, there's a rate change. Why is there a rate change? You gave me a price for June 1.
Yeah.
Well, it's because all insurance changes December. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. So we've changed companies several times to keep our numbers as close as to the budgeted price as we can. And we are always able to find a new policy, but the problem is that it's a harassment, it's a hassle for our staff because now they have to go find new doctors and everything else because the next guy's not in the network and we're changing networks every year. And so the medical side of it's a huge hassle for not only us, but staff and everybody. It's just really.
So who are we using?
Right now we're with. There was United Healthcare before. I think now it's all,
Blue Cross.
Blue Cross, there you go.
Blue Cross.
Is there an opportunity for us to piggyback with a state pool?
I haven't been presented with a state pool. It has been suggested once a couple of years ago to maybe try to get in with the county.
That's what Lefty said.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
get in with the county
as a
that,
matter of fact, I think we saved quite a bit of money at the housing authority.
Yeah.
And we have about the same amount of people working there, and we piggybacked with the county. And what's good about piggybacking with the county is that Kidder used to have an insurance company. He was an agent, so he
understands
knows
how the
about
process,
it.
yeah.
Might be something to look
We
at.
have better
absolutely.
coverage for our employees as well.
That might be an
Yeah,
option.
And
absolutely.
it's just a thought, you know.
Yeah, well, it's something to look into for sure. Yeah,
Peter sometime in the next few days and see what we do.
As a matter of fact, they just negotiated, as a matter of fact, on our next meeting, we're gonna vote on it, you know. We're still gonna go with the county, because it saved us thousands of dollars.
yeah, we need to check in on that.
You do it.
I'm even thinking the city they're gonna go in with the county as well.
Okay, that's cool.
But for purposes of the budget, we probably need to just leave what's in there and.
Yeah, I think that the number we have is adequate.
I just trying to look at some way. to-
Oh, no, sure.
I had a question on the retirement plan,
Yes.
and I think we discussed this before, but we match 5%,
3% or
3%.
I think it's
3%. I'm pretty sure it's 3%.
Okay,
I got it, buddy.
you got it.
I think I did.
Well,
I didn't take it out.
from what I understand, we're actually we're actually putting money into the guys' retirement plans, even if they're not contributing to it. So how do you match when they're not
It's not a
contributing?
matter, it would just say, instead of being, because we don't qualify to be part of the Texas Municipal Retirement Plan, because we don't have enough employees. They came up with the 401k and they just gave 3% to the 401k instead of, because they have no way to contribute to the state plan. When David first got here, he came up from police department, he already had retirement. He's like, hey, I want to get back in my retirement plan. And we researched it and you have to have 50 employees or more to qualify Texas Municipal Retirement.
Okay, so does it get tested every year?
What's that?
When they come in and make sure that, I know in my company, I could contribute max out every year
Yeah.
in my 401.
Sure.
And at the end of the year, they would come in and do what they call a test.
Mhm.
And if the employees didn't put enough into the 401,
Mhm.
I got part of my money back. And it happened to some of the other employees
Because
too.
there was an agreement of.
It's gotta be an equal.
Yeah, and ours doesn't, we don't have a match agreement. We've
So you don't
always
have-
been just a 3% contribution.
But
Yeah.
my point was, is if you're not contributing to it, then what are we matching?
You're not matching, you're just.
You're not.
You're just giving them
Giving
3%.
it
It's
3%
a misnomer, it's not a match.
So I would think as
I mean, I
policy,
Contribute to it. I mean.
you
I
want
already have
people
my
to
pension.
contribute to it.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know,
It would be more beneficial to them.
Oh,
absolutely.
would.
It's
Sure.
their advantage to do it.
Like I said, if I didn't have my own pension, I'd be contributing to it.
Yeah, that's the whole point of a match. is
Exactly.
Make it.
To encourage them to
Yeah.
contribute.
Because if they don't, there ain't much to it. Because I can tell you after 11 years, it only is about, even with my pay scale, it's less than 30 grand or something like that. It's really nothing.
Yeah.
So if they don't contribute to it,
But a lot of these guys, you know, or some of them are young enough, you know, in their 30s or whatever, they start putting it in there now. And when they get ready to retire, they're gonna have pretty
oh,
good chunk of
absolutely,
money.
there's no question.
So we need to make it an incentive for them to.
Yeah.
To, you know,
Step up to the.
contribute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's just the minimum, I think the minimum's like $20.
Yeah.
But, you know,
And Virginia, I'll talk about that, see if there's a way she can get.
yeah, that's something we need to review
Encourage.
when we do our
Personnel man.
personnel manual.
Yeah.
We need to review that.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was my question on that.
And for dental insurance, we have
Well, no.
insurance or we pay
No,
for
we do
it?
not. We still do the same things we've always done, which is $1,500 a year per person, which you saw last year. $1,200 was used on dental out of 18 people. So not much demand for dental. So there's no reason to have a plan that we're paying way more than that.
Yeah.
So do we need to plug $8,000 in there?
Well, I just put it in just for the purposes of making sure we have enough to cover if 4 or 5 people have to go to the
Okay.
dentist.
Yeah, but
It's
but
just a
if,
cushion.
but based on on the revenue numbers and the real numbers that we're getting, that may have to be cut
Well, yeah, we
back
can
to
cut it back,
meet
certainly,
that
yes,
budget
sure.
number.
Thank you.
Cut it in half,
Yeah.
Yeah.
at least cut it in half. Then on the bonuses and incentives, that
We
just
never
needs
give
to
out
go away.
bonuses.
Yeah, we don't even need that in there.
Auto allowance, whose auto are we allowing?
Me, that's it. Virginia gets a mileage going to,
Yeah, anybody who's on business.
well, yeah, that's correct. But everybody has a vehicle. Frank has his own truck. So we don't have that worry anywhere except for Virginia. Virginia doesn't have a company vehicle, so when she goes to Sam's and picks up office supplies and all that kind of stuff.
We got an extra vehicle, don't
You know, sit it here and just let it sit here.
we? We got three of them.
Me, we got,
Put her in the police.
If we want to leave it sitting in the parking.
It'll
lot,
charge the battery.
put the lights on and go.
Get there a lot quicker.
Our coffee back quick.
Yeah.
Okay, but that doesn't cover any of you unless you go out of the district
Well,
somewhere.
that's a vehicle allowance, $700 a month. That's what that comes up to. The
That
$700
is,
is a vehicle allowance, yeah. It's a compensate for a vehicle for me to own a vehicle so that way I can come to work. But any additional charges above that is about the mileage for Virginia. There was some for Sue, but that's why we gave her a vehicle. So she drives it. She don't have
Yeah.
no reason to.
so, I'm just, so 700 a month would be 8,400 a year.
Yeah, so maybe it's not all there, but that's what it's supposed to be. So
If
yeah.
you're gonna pay in addition to that, we probably need to up that to 10.
But what about travel mileage? Isn't,
that's for like going on to schools like we went to Houston,
yeah,
pays for all that. That's where that's in. And we haven't gone to schools for a while, but this team does. Our people, and particularly Frank has a couple of certifications he has to get done every year. Justin has several certificates, but that's actually through the PD. But Frank's travel monies, Virginia goes to 2 or 3 HR schools a year. So that's what that's. It also has the monies in there in case we do go to Houston and take 2 or 3 people on hotel rooms. We haven't done that a couple of times.
Yeah, I think, marketing, we wanna leave that open right now.
The professional fees, what all is
Our
included?
engineers,
Huh?
people that are doing that Stantec when they're doing our sediment studies. Those things, people that we hire in to do a specific job.
And do we get some of that reimbursed back? or-
Well, in the past we have, the problem with this last one, 773,000,
Mhm.
it was pre-grant. I mean, it was part of the process. We had to get the design done as part of the grant,
Mhm.
but they won't pay it down because it was before pre-construction.
Okay.
And the grant only covers construction.
Mm.
But in all probability, I don't see it really doing anything this year.
No, there's.
We're not gonna do anything this year.
It's safe to say that, yeah.
Didn't we have enough projects?
Unless we win the lottery or something.
Yeah.
Or we get another big check from BTX, which I guess is kind of like a lottery in it.
This is kind of stuff we're looking for right
Yeah.
there, big buck items. So
Yeah.
what do y'all suggest we do? You want, I don't suggest we leave it at 200. Unless there's something in one of the grants.
But CSRS's cost for the project manager, for the project now, will be reimbursed through the grant. So anything we get this year from CSRS will be reimbursable. We've already, I actually had CSRS actually go to toe with the state on that. Because they told them that they weren't gonna give them any money back. And I'm like, well, but then we're just gonna cancel the grant then, because we can't afford to pay all these other additional fees.
Right.
And so they sent a note to the Tech Stop Maritime Division and listed all the things they do for the project as far as their project manager, monitoring vehicle traffic, all that stuff. And so then the state said, okay, yeah, we're going to cover it. So anything CSRS claims as a project manager this year, which is all we have them doing, then it'll get reimbursed.
Why don't we adjust that?
0.
Well, you can't say 0 because there's going to be something's going to come up.
Yeah,
Just guarantee it's going to.
50,000
50,000, yeah, put something in there.
Yeah. We have to put something. Because I guarantee we'll have something will happen. We'll have to do some road work or redesign, or it'll cost us some.
Well, I think on a lot of these projects, we don't need to have an engineer a lot of this
Oh,
stuff.
no.
You know, like the manhole project. Now, I know that was PUD, but there was no reason to have that engineered.
Mhm.
I mean, it was just simple, dig one up, and put another one in. Weren't changing anything.
That's correct.
And y'all weren't under a grant. I realize some grant require.
Required.
Yeah,
That's correct.
I get that part.
Yeah.
M&O supplies, what all's covered in that?
He told me the other day and I can't recall.
Obviously mosquito poison.
Well, we can quit spraying.
I think they basically have.
No, actually, the truck was out yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Ann told me that she saw him go by.
it's just the wind's been so bad. And actually, Frank was telling me that by his regulations for his license, the wind can't be over 15 miles an hour for them to spray. Because I asked him about it, and he said, well, if the wind's too high, by regulation, I can't spray.
No wonder they haven't been spraying.
Because it's been over 15 miles an hour, 24/7 down there.
She does.
Uh,
Well, it's under his license. He doesn't actually drive.
But if the wind's that high, those mosquitoes are in Kennedy County or somewhere.
no, they're not. I wish they would.
They're hiding.
25, 30 mile an hour wind. would
Run a
be bad.
program in Cyprus and in South Florida. And let me tell you, when then sun would go down, everybody was inside.
Well, I think Frank's gonna look for a different supplier to try to get the cost of the chemicals down. And from what I understand, he doesn't use the same,
We do not use malathion.
same chemical that, not Lacera, that San Perlita uses.
No, we do.
So that's a little bit of difference in the
Yeah.
cost, so.
We did a breakdown on this one because it was kind of stood out this year. It was
Yeah.
such a big number. And they're paying $9,000 a drum for this material. There's, well, malathion is what Willis County, everybody in Willis County uses. That's what Brownsville uses, everybody. The problem is it's not very effective with mosquitoes.
Right.
There's another product that only us and South Padre Island, as government bodies, get. It's expensive, but it works. Those of you who live in town know once you spray,
It's a permethrin base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it does a very good job, but it's gotten up in cost towards $9,900 a drum. That's why those costs are high this year. It was costing us about 5,000 or 6,000 drums. Now it's gone up to 9,900. So I've asked Frank, hey, I hope you can still get the good stuff, but let's figure out if we can find another source for it. So,
Wow.
Well, I mean, you got two choices. You either pay the price or you don't spray.
yeah.
If
Well,
you don't spray, then
Well, if you use
citizens
we have
want to get hurt.
a drum of malathion we use, but we use it to do standing water.
Right.
Anywhere we have standing water, they spray it with a hand wand. That's malathion. But the stuff we put into the atmosphere for people to live in and walk in and go jogging in while this grayer is going down the road.
Malathion is not
Malathion is
ideal.
a good product. No, it's got a lot of health risks.
It kills animals, actually.
Yeah.
You get too much of it.
So that's that number. Is that
You used to have a license for applicator, so.
malathion is out there, but it's not efficient for what we're doing.
That's basically all of that. Expenditure.
M&O.
Almost 100%. Yes,
Okay.
39,000.
We can back up one line to office expenses. I think we need to cut that down
Yeah, we can probably bring that down to
5.
uh,
We gotta be,
6,300. So yeah.
Is that for here and Port
Yeah, it's
Mansfield?
for all offices.
All offices.
Yes. That's substitute tip. We have two sources. We either order from Quill and they ship it in here to the office. And when we have a lot of stuff, that's what we do. But if the harbor office needs copy paper and coffee cups and that kind of stuff, she just goes to Sam's and gets it. So that's what that is.
We can trim that down a little bit. So we're gonna change that to 6,
Yeah.
6?
5, whatever y'all want to do.
I thought we are gonna cut it down. Cause
Was it
the,
14?
14 right now.
I'm sorry, are we,
Expenses.
Office expenses.
oh, expenses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the office expenses also includes a lease here at the bank.
Hmm.
Office supplies is paper, all that kind of stuff. Office expenses
Consumables.
is,
Well, that's where we were at, office supply.
Yeah. and office supply.
So we're gonna go.
What is that lease, Ron, you know, roundabout?
1,000 a month?
It's like 1,000.
Yeah. I think it's 10,000 a year.
PUD carries $300 a month of it because they have their servers are in the back room. So we charge the PUD to keep that office active so that their machines will keep running. But the rest of it is charged in the navigation.
So 700 a month, basically.
Roughly.
So it'd be kind of hard to knock that number down very much.
No, yeah.
Okay,
And that's not a bad,
okay.
No, it's not.
Leave it, leave it at
It's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
We get.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vehicle repairs, I just leave it at 10 grand because all it's gonna take is somebody to wreck a car. We're gonna have a chunk of money. We get
I
lucky.
was on M&O supplies.
M&O supplies is the
That's
almost
the bug
exclusive
spray.
to mosquito. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we kind of need to leave that alone. Vehicle repair, we never know.
We have insurance on all our vehicles.
All our vehicles are insured.
Okay.
I just don't want to take a chance on something major happening. We have an out of pocket that's gonna eat us up. So
Vehicle repair, not much we can do there. Maintenance, IT maintenance.
I'm all for that, but just what you said a while ago, that PUD has a server. Navigation district needs a server where yours
Yeah.
and Betty's.
yeah, and I'll to the rest of you, right?
Tied into a server.
network, yeah.
Well, and I'll explain a little on that because I had this discussion with Mr. Kendrick a couple of weeks ago. The problem we have with the way we're set up now, it's a problem and it's a plus, is that each of us has our own computer and it's a standalone computer, which is wonderful until there's a hurricane or something and all your data is in 3 different computers.
Mhm.
That's a problem. Then it becomes an issue. The other time is when we were doing some research in the last couple of months, we couldn't call somebody, hey, come help us out with this research because they had to kick me out of my chair and take over my desk. Now they have to kick Lefty out of her chair and take over her desk. But if everything was going to a central server, then they could go sit in that room and bring up the data that we were asking them to research for.
I think that's something we need to look at.
So,
And servers are pretty inexpensive.
no, they're not expensive now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, but if you, I mean, this is a government entity per se, in files and all of that needs to be secured
Absolutely.
versus having them in your desktop.
Correct.
I think we really need to think about moving into a network system.
Yep.
That IT, that's what it
You
is.
know, I don't know. Maybe there's room on the current PUD server for us, but.
I don't know, we'd have to check. but
Section that hard
possibility.
drive off,
Yeah.
and we got a different letter.
Exactly, or even put
We
a second.
definitely need backup system.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a server in my office and every week at Friday, I'd go in there and record it on a tape.
Right.
This was years ago.
Yeah.
And I would take that and put it in a fireproof safe.
We did the same thing.
And we have,
Yeah.
and
We didn't have the cloud and all that stuff. then,
That's
so.
Virginia's this, so that anything financial is backed up constantly. And if we ever, we close the office because of hurricanes coming.
But where is it backed up to?
It's backed up to an external server.
External hard
He
drive.
carries it out of the building.
Unplug it and take it with you.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is if it's a fire, you're not prepared for that.
And
You know.
those go bad.
Right.
I've had a personal experience
Yeah,
with that.
yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
thinking as a,
We need to get up to date.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
I agree.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, I'll put it in to do research on that. So. The next one in the equipment repair, it's large and I put it on the outside because we had a relatively new John Deere tractor that just crapped out.
Don't buy no more John Deere
We would never
tractors.
buy another John Deere product ever again.
I went through 3 of them before I learned my lesson.
Yeah, we will never buy John Deere again. But that is why that one bill is high. So I just put it back at the 8,000 we usually leave it at. So
Vehicle fuel.
it's just overall fuel costs. Cost us 54. With fuel prices changing the way they do radically, it's really kind of hard to pick a number for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for example, Monday, it was 243 at the corner for gas. It was 283 yesterday afternoon.
289.
289, you're correct.
Yeah.
Right, this yesterday afternoon.
Went up.
So in one day, it went up 45 cents.
And oil prices are going down.
That's correct. And so
Figure that one
for
out.
fuel, I just put 50 grand, hoping it
profit.
falls close.
Yeah.
And most of the time it does fall pretty close to the, and this time it's only off of 5%, 10%. So.
Airport maintenance, 80,000.
That-
Well, that's because of that
That share,
from the
Know about.
No,
We can leave, come back to this in a minute, but I just don't see being able to do anything.
no,
They sent me a form. I don't know if I put it in you guys. Yeah, I did send it to you. You guys have a copy in there.
Yeah.
$798,000 for a game fence all around the airport. It's in horrible condition.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Yeah, well, we actually asked, Frank asked a fence guy right after we got that offer. And the fence guy said it would cost us about, 1.3 million. So if they're gonna do it for 798, and we have to cover 10%, which is 79,000.
I think we're just gonna have to bite the bullet and wait a year till we get the budget balanced where we need it.
Okay, so this is cost share of that 700 and some thousand.
Yeah, so- should be in here. So if you're just.
Again, and this is an airport. And I'm looking at,
I contacted a contractor that works for the state that built all the fence. And it wasn't near that much. Now I can't remember I've got it wrote down at the house, but they charge you per mile.
Right.
And I think we figured there was 2.5 miles of fence or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was way cheaper than $80,000. Yeah, way cheaper.
the whole
For a game
thing.
fence?
Whole thing, yeah.
For a game?
800.
Game fence, yeah.
For 800.
I'll get those numbers and bring them. Yeah, actually, you can look online. There's companies on there that'll give you a per mile price.
Mhm.
I think it was like $23,000 a mile, 25,000 a mile.
That's,
That's the textile the aviation, that's not the maritime.
Yeah. Well, they're not gonna use the cheapest people around
No.
anyways. you know,
Well, they're gonna go a little
government.
bit.
They're gonna
They're
jack
gonna replace every,
Yeah, they'll replace everything. they'll strip it down and rebuild the whole thing.
and a lot of it depends on if you have to do any clearing to put the fence in, which that'd be minimal out there.
Virtually none.
So
and you mow it with your lawnmower.
I really think,
well,
my opinion is we need to hold off
Well, I
on that.
have a conference call with them on the 4th, in the afternoon to talk about it.
Yeah.
First phone call, we're actually even gonna talk about it.
it's not a priority.
No, it's definitely
Not a
not.
priority. And how much money are we making out of that airport?
Zero.
Is it,
Zero.
so why are we investing money into it?
Well, we have to,
Well,
for
it's a
safety
safety
reasons, we
thing.
have to do.
Yeah, safety.
What
We have to
safety
keep the Neil guy and all the animals off the runway or else.
I'm sorry, the airport. Why do we have an airport?
Well, we've always, I don't know.
I understand we've always
Yeah,
had
yeah, no,
things,
I
but
get it. But why
I
they
don't-
built it, I don't know.
We just need to figure out and we've talked about this. We need to figure out a revenue stream for the airport. Because it gets used a lot. I mean, every day.
Yeah.
There's planes in and
but we're
out.
not making money.
We're not. And that doesn't make any sense,
It
does it?
doesn't make any
No,
sense.
So that's what I say. We gotta
It has-
figure out.
We
what-
have to get to the point where whatever we're spending, there should be
Right.
at least a match plus maybe 10%. And if not, we should stop doing that.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those intangibles though, because airplane comes in and dumps off 2 or 3 people or 6 people, whatever.
And takes out
They're
the 7 or
spending money in the port
Yeah.
somehow or another.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's the benefit.
But the cost,
Well,
benefit outweigh the cost is more than the benefit.
the other
How
thing
much
too,
are
we
they
don't
actually
have any,
spending?
Well,
we don't have any facilities there. We don't have we don't have hangars. We don't have fuel. We don't have anything there.
you know, if you look at it, airport maintenance, $1,119 for the year. I guarantee you that airport has brought more to the port than
Yeah.
$100.
And I think that was to put a new gate opener up.
No, it's definitely bringing them more revenue. than that.
Again, and I understand the intangibles, but again, when we're making decisions about money, it's, what are the intangibles? And I know those are hard to calculate. I get it. But just as fences are required in these things, how can we generate income to cover those?
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying is how do we cover them?
I don't disagree with
And
you.
I like the idea, I think you mentioned, Eric, and let's talk to the county because it's the only airport in the county.
Right.
How can we pair up with them?
Get them to help us.
So maybe they can help us pay for some of the,
Well, I know there's some people that won't land there because we don't have any facilities.
Mhm.
So
If you remember when
the
we
hangar that's out there right now is
So the hangar belongs to
doesn't
somebody else.
belong to us, which doesn't make any
status
sense.
on that, Ron?
The University came to me last summer and said they weren't gonna stick around. They were gonna leave. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You're not
That's
contributing to the
drone-
neighborhood. Yeah, the drone people.
Drone system.
The drone people have the 2 trailers that are out there and they lease the hangar from the Milners. And so they came back to me in October and said, you know what, Ron, if you'll let us, we want to stick around on a year-to-year basis, at least for a little while. And I said, well, what about your lease for your hangar? Because you got a hangar lease, you got to renew that too. So what are you going to do? And because I was ready to let them go because they haven't contributed crap for 2 or 3 years now. And so anyway, as of right now, the university is still there, plan on being there. The biggest change for them is they diversified themselves from only being unmanned aircraft to unmanned anything. So they're an unmanned research center for like cars and boats and everything. So in the future, they may have a better need for Port Mansfield for maritime and all this other stuff. So, but the hangar belongs to the Milners. It is current. It's always current. They keep it current. They lease it to the university for, I don't know, $1 a month or something.
What do we charge the Milners?
I don't know. Do you have any idea? Just a ballpark? No, I have no idea. It's not very much.
I'd like to know
Yeah.
because it didn't show up obviously on the maps or anything. So I don't know, was it $1 a year?
No, they pay an actual rate. It's based on square footage in that case. I'm almost sure of that. So I just don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Because at one time,
If they're not gonna use it, maybe we need to buy it from them.
well, that's how.
Maybe we need to, well, hey, no, I'm not even gonna say that.
I know what you were gonna say now, don't say that.
Again, might be time to think about an airport plan. What are we looking at next?
We'll put it on the agenda and talk about it.
And get with the county as well and
Yeah.
see, maybe we
See
can.
what our options
partner
are.
up with. I mean,
The strategic plan for the airport you're talking about?
Yeah.
yeah, what is the plan? Because, I mean, once you have something, you don't want to get rid of it because to get it back is very
Oh,
difficult.
it's
So
absolutely
you won't get it back.
But at the same time, how do we meet the cost?
correct. That's right.
I agree.
And
The Head Start grant, is that something that we can wait a year on, or is that?
but I mean,
It'll
now that they know.
might
we're
come back
here,
around, but
yeah, they'll next year when they do, actually they do it every 2 years. Because everything in the text dot has to do with legislative cycles, which is every 2 years. So this is the last legislative cycle's money. Now there's a cycle right now, so they'll award stuff off it 2 year over the next 2 years. So over the next 2 years, potentially it will come back.
Yeah.
So.
I just don't think we've
But
got.
if there's an option to put that fence for a heck of a lot less than our
Mhm.
cost share, we should really consider
I'll
that.
have those numbers next meeting.
Yeah, because I don't know what the liability is if we don't have it fenced and there's a plane that comes in and goes into.
I'm sure the FAA would get involved in
Yeah,
that.
no,
Yeah.
they absolutely will.
And what are the regulations? What are we required to have
Mhm.
Well, there's
in terms of?
We have
that?
airports that aren't fenced.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Ours has a history of wildlife on the road.
Ours is just has the wildlife factor, but there's a lot of airports that aren't fenced at all.
But they don't have the wildlife we have.
Well, they probably do, but it's not as prolific as what we have.
Okay,
So anyways, we're gonna go to zero.
it's not a priority right now.
Not a priority. Port maintenance, $675.
That's the cost share that we're gonna end up costing us. The first phase of the project for the seawall is 6.7. The whole project is 9.7, of which the government's covering 8.7.
Can we change that to grant cost or something like that
Well, I
instead?
just factored it into the port maintenance because that's where it's gonna be. But yeah, I could create a
I
category.
mean, it just,
Seems like it'd go under capital,
Okay. Yeah.
you know?
It should,
yeah,
because it is a capital investment.
the number's not gonna change, just the
Yeah,
location
no,
of
that-
it.
yeah.
But. So,
And then maintenance, we have 75,000. Last year we spent 15.
Yeah. But maintenance is one of those general things. I never know how it's gonna be.
Is that,
And what does that
is
include?
that including the boat slips and roads or?
No, yeah, well, no, we have the categories of small boat maintenance. That's the boat slip.
Okay,
General maintenance is, I think it was something I saw on the board here. I don't know where I came with that number. I thought I got it off this board. It might have been the airport money, but no, that's different. I don't remember it. That may be just some number that I replicated. I can't think of any reason why maintenance should be at 75,000.
Okay, so what do we want to put there, back like 15?
Yeah, it's what well, typically it's been 20, but we have 15 funds, so. I think we,
And again, what does that include?
oh, wait a minute, cost share.
Maintenance.
If we need that money for road
don't make-
repairs and stuff like that, then we need to leave it in there.
And I think that is what I did, honestly.
Because we've definitely got some road repairs we need.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that's
And
fine,
can
but
we-
but it doesn't need to be $75,000 if we're just gonna do a coal patch for the next year.
Well, and I agree with that, but there are some areas on like Marina Drive. It's total wreck. That thing will have to be completely re-topped.
And that's gonna cost us about 150,000.
Yeah, and then we still have one road that's not paved.
Or the one behind the
One
restaurant.
behind the restaurant, behind Windjammer.
So can we put a descriptor,
I will
road
see if I can remember
maintenance
if I
or
can
something?
remember what it is, but
Let's do that.
yeah, I'll see if I can.
Road
remember.
maintenance?
I
Road
can't-
maintenance.
Yeah.
And we'll
Well, port maintenance. is-
probably use that, just doing patching what we can.
Yeah, the port maintenance is stuff, anything on the water. The Swampcraft Basin is in the marina, and then maintenance is just anything left in town. But I don't know why I picked 75,000. Something must have come to my mind. I could have swore I took it off this board, but I don't know. I'll try to
I
figure it
don't
out.
remember. So, so we're just gonna leave that
75?
at
Just for the
75.
time being, yeah. If we can't find a reason, we can take it back down to 8, which is what I usually use.
Well-
But we've only spent about 15.
Right, but again, there's gotta be
So there
something I
might
thought
be,
of that we
okay,
needed to do.
I got
That's
it,
why.
okay.
Yeah,
I just
but
can't think what it is.
I would really like to see us do some road
Oh, yeah,
maintenance.
we should.
If we got it in the budget, then we'll do it. So we're just gonna leave that at 75. Is that correct, or
Yeah, but
you go with that?
But I'll try to get you an answer and put it on
some
there.
food for thought on this.
Mm.
There's a lot of grants out there that cities apply for,
Yeah,
for road maintenance. That's how they did 10th Street. Back then it was just 1.1 million. Right now it'd probably be about 2-3 million. But they got if I'm not mistaken, it was an 80-20,
Mhm.
which is good for Ringling, but they only
Yeah.
come out with about.
Well, we've been doing it out of pocket without any grant and support. And we did for 5 years, we did $200,000 a year. And we would take a major road like North Shore Drive or Baffin Drive, and we would just do it. And Matagorda Drive. Matagorda was actually an engineered job, and we did get grant money because the damage was caused by one of the hurricanes. But all the other ones, we paid out of pocket, and it cost us about 200,000 to do a street.
But yeah,
But if there's
Yeah.
funding out there,
Oh, absolutely.
look for it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's tons of money out there, man. The worst that can happen is that
It is.
we don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. And we were shot down a whole lot of times in the past. Let's not do
The
that.
other side of that too is we gotta have money to pay the 20% or 10% of
And
what.
that's what's caught up with us finally after all these
Yeah.
years. We've had 3 or 4 good years of grants. Altogether we have, if you count the core, $66 million in grants. 14 million coming from TxDOT, but we had to pay 20% of that 14 million bucks. And so that's finally caught up to us. And that's why we're in the situation. We've been making money positive every year since I've been here until this year. Now we're upside down because we've paid out so much money is our cost share on grants. So
Came one behind the other.
and they hit us for 3 in 1 year, and we're having to pay a 20% cost share on $14 million.
The small craft basin maintenance.
That is fixing the docks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
I
think the
think,
price is fine.
yeah, we need to leave that alone.
going back to roads and stuff, the
Okay.
parking there at the boat ramp on the north side,
Yes.
that's pretty deteriorated. And there's no lines and people park like this and that way.
We'll
We need
restripe
to,
it.
we need
We
to
will
do,
restripe it for sure. Yeah. And
Is it-
check the condition.
would there be a grant from
There is
TxDOT?
TxDOT doesn't.
Small parts?
Texas Parks and Wildlife paid for it the last. summer.
Yeah.
And that
maybe-
happened the year I got here, so it's been 11 years.
Yeah.
Probably about time to see if we can find them.
Yeah,
Help us.
we need to apply for that one and get it not only painted, but resurfaced.
Yeah, we do the repainting and all that stuff, but the resurfacing, if it's needed, then yeah, we always have.
I'd
that.
like to see them resurface that in front of ADOT. That's all gravel still.
Yeah, it's always just been caliche.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's further down the line. That's something we don't have to do right
No.
now. Postage, I don't think we need to mail anything.
I wish.
Email it.
But we just.
Why do we still
Letter.
have post
And I
office?
need to
I don't
send out
get
a
it.
letter for this change of rates. So that's,
Telephone, everybody stay off the
It's on
phones.
packages.
Yeah.
It looks like the budget numbers are pretty close to what we're spending,
yeah,
so
that's right.
utilities, not a lot we can do there. The insurance, we're gonna look into that.
Well,
You had,
That's the small boat basin contribution to keep the number up.
Right.
That small boat base. Now, if we say we're not gonna do that, we're gonna add it into the small boat big for put the roof on, so we don't have to touch that actual fund, then that's fine.
yeah,
Either way, I mean.
Yeah, you know, it's
Same-
apples and oranges. but-
Better than us.
money, so.
But that differential between 23 and 67, that differential will flow back into the improvement fund.
That's correct.
That's how we try and build that up.
That's correct.
Miscellaneous,
It's just
Yeah,
stuff that happens.
yeah. Well, we don't need 8,000 stuff happen.
No.
Maybe, maybe
Like $2,000.
a couple of thousand, yeah.
so we're gonna change that.
And then promotions and publicity,
Yeah,
that number would include, say, advertising Newport subdivision. That's why I put it up that high, because we're wanting to start promoting that subdivision. We have never, to this day, ever published that property. The only time that property's name has ever come up was on our website. And it does not describe anything. It says, this is how big the property is, and you have to contact Letty to get it to buy it. And that's all it says. It doesn't say anything about utility. It doesn't say anything. There's nothing there. We've not publicized.
well, if we're gonna let realtors,
But if we're gonna let realtors do it, do we need to pay
I
the
mean,
extra?
we're gonna have to pay 3% commission.
But that comes out of the actual
That
revenue.
comes out of the actual sale.
So,
That's right.
Yeah, so
So do we need to go out and go to the newspapers and publish it? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think let
Not yet.
realtors.
I think we will get to that point. But the history has shown from the Eastport subdivision number 2 that it sat vacant for 10 years and nobody built anything. But as soon as the first person built a house, they filled them up within a
Yeah.
month. 2 months.
Well, look at the west side.
Oh, it's
There was no houses there since I've been here.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Now all of a sudden they're
Now-
building houses and fixing to build another one over.
Correct. So now that we already got one guy who came and got his building permit yesterday for Newport subdivision, that one alone will stimulate people. That's just 2 brothers. They're gonna build 2 homes on this 2 lots or 3 lots. So that one
subdivision.
in the new subdivision. So as soon as they start building, other people will not only start building on the ones they've already leased, but other leasees will come in and say, hey, we're ready to.
They were setting forms yesterday.
Yeah.
On one
Yeah.
of them, so.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, Monty's fixing to,
Start his-
he started his pad,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
won't be long.
So as soon as you get a couple of houses there, they'll sell like crazy.
Is this also the line item where we, give sponsorships to
Yes.
fishing tournaments and stuff?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, we need to do that.
Yeah,
The
oh,
fishing tournament-
definitely.
Oh, yeah, we have to do that.
The-
So
the
we
young
still got our high
farmers, that's
schools.
this
and
weekend.
farmers,
Yeah.
We already, well, if they asked for it, we gave it to them already. I guarantee you that.
did,
Yeah, we
okay.
did, right? And then,
Young Farmers is good.
Port
good-
Mansfield.
Yeah,
Annual.
yeah, and all of the local schools,
The
schools not out of.
Oh, no, only
Willis
Willis County,
schools.
yeah.
Same-
The only time we've
Yeah.
ever given anything outside of Willis County to a school was to UT Kingsville, ask us for money 10 years ago, and we did it one time, and then we said, no, we're not.
No, we're not gonna do it.
So,
No,
We need to plug a
not
lower
UT,
number.
Texas A&M Kingsville.
let's go with UTRGV now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah, it wasn't UT Kingsville,
Alright.
it was A&M Kingsville.
let's plug 10,000 in there and
Yeah, for donation.
donations and stuff like
So
that.
instead of 40, you want me to put 10? Okay.
Yeah.
That should
Well,
be-
actually, we're already doing 23.
Well, we're gonna go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to, yeah.
We need to
Well, running dry.
kind of pick and choose,
Yeah.
you
I mean, the traditional ones we do is the young farmers, the Port Mansfield Fishing Tournament, and a couple of up schools. We have done Little League the last 2 years, which is fine. That's something new that we just started doing, but it seems to do a good job for us because they run around wearing our name on their back and
that's pretty cheap.
and it's relatively inexpensive. So,
I know when I was in business, my shop was actually in 3 different communities, Sweeney, Van Vleck, and Bay City. And I got hammered all the time for
Yeah.
donations. So I finally had to just sit down and say, all right, this is the ones I'm going to donate to, and that's it. I mean, you might have,
Open that gate, they come flooding in.
I mean,
And remember, we don't always have to be a diamond sponsor. We can be a
oh, no, that's correct.
silver sponsor.
Now we're doing that for 1 or 2 of them already because One of the ones that came in the other day, the minimum contribution was like $2,000 and went up to like 12. And I'm like,
Who was that?
You get an entry level for me. I don't remember who it was now, but I was like, dude, that's crazy.
Well, I really think that we need to support the young farmers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we do.
Young farmers and school districts.
Yes, absolutely.
Those are
That's
the
correct.
ones we really wanna.
I don't know, San Perlita, if you see what we pay in school taxes to San Perlita, they may not need a lot of help.
But yeah,
They're pretty well on with the windmills.
Well, they ought to be.
yeah, they get a lot of money.
My school taxes there,
Talking about the windmill.
$3,000 a year or
They need
32.
money for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's how they got them to build them and give them tax abatement.
Yeah, big.
Oh, those tax abatements.
Yeah, they,
But it's a good school, so,
Oh,
you know, I'm not knocking them on that, but
No problem. I pay mine every year.
so where we at?
that's it.
We're at
Can you,
Can we get this adjusted real quick?
It's a good idea. Too. I'm gonna try.
yeah,
That's my plan.
And then we'll look at it again.
What was capital improvements? Did we talk about that one?
You mentioned they put the seawall, this.
That's what that was?
170,000 or
Oh,
something.
okay, all right.
They have office rent here. I thought we already had covered office rent in office expenses. So we've doing it twice.
Get office rent.
Right there, it says office rent, 10,000.
Oh, yeah, we need to,
Change that too.
yeah, need to change that too.
zero, but it's
We're
on.
already.
So we-
office-
I would just need to,
see
maybe-
office rent.
maybe
is
cut it in
10,
half.
And
But what did we spend 9,300 this year?
where you at?
office rent, it's right under promotions and then dues and subscriptions, and then it's an office rent.
got cut off. of
Yeah,
them.
mine is not there, so, okay. Oh,
It's
she's
on the
looking at
long
other
one, it's on the mini
When I made
line.
the copy,
And it has-
This one.
Oh, it's in the same one.
No, I mean, it is.
That was,
It's the same one, but it's.
Yeah, but then-
Give me a bigger one.
This one.
So is that a double entry?
Let me check with Virginia. Office rent. yeah,
If we're paying
Well, the office expenses was for the
Except for the-
repair.
Yeah.
What's office rent for?
Okay.
Wow.
This one. It's on the one that's in our,
I'm missing
that one. over
about,
there. It's on that one.
Yeah, when they.
Same one, yeah, but it doesn't have the rest of the list.
yeah, that's,
It's
Oh, he
in our-
cut it off.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we got about 10 more items.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's why I didn't look at that because it was cut off.
Yeah, well, I asked him to print it a little bigger because I couldn't,
Yeah,
y'all gonna lose me on this one because I can't see it.
okay, let's see.
So office rent, and we just talked about this office,
Yes.
office expenses up
Office
there.
Expenses is copiers, anything that's a large item that we have to buy,
Office.
for us, the harbor office, the police department,
So it's not the lease.
it's not the least.
Ah,
It's
That
all
was up
the-
here in the other one.
and that one we had,
This is, like,
14,000, we have
so we don't
budget
need
we don't need 14,000 on that. So you can put it 7,000.
7, yeah.
7 there.
On office rent?
No,
On office expenses.
That should be $7,000.
Okay.
Yeah, that is 7.
So what's, what's the difference between office expenses and office supplies?
So office supplies are paper, pens.
Consumables.
The stuff that you do.
Consumables.
just-
And
yeah,
office
consumables.
expenses were what again?
Office expenses is like the acquisitions and rent for copy machines and any big pieces of equipment that we have. Those are the big things because every freaking one of these nowadays copy machines are.
So
$12,000.
that should be office equipment.
Yeah.
Not
let's
expenses.
put that.
And that's how we have it
That's
in
a-
my budget at work.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
have office supplies and office equipment.
Okay, we can get it.
Well, then you come down here and we have office rent.
And that's why we changed that to equipment. We know it's not.
But office rent is
It's
the
what you pay
lease
for this
rent.
place here.
But I thought that was in
Well,
office.
that's because,
expense.
well, I thought it was too, but it's not. It's-
Yeah.
I just asked Virginia.
So
Office
one
rent
is consumables, the other one is equipment,
The other one, and last one is.
and the last one is the
the
lease.
rent thing. Yeah,
Office rent?
Mhm.
I thought it was $1,000 a month.
it is rough.
So it should be around 12,000.
12,000
Yeah.
on office rent?
Yeah, you have it at 10.
Yeah, and we didn't spend that
I
much.
think it's actually about 874.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our share is like, yeah, 800.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
It's
because
$1,000, but
it's
the
from
fees
the
that you
UV.
that-
10,488.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. That adds up. They say the figures don't lie, but liars do figure.
But we gotta go way back. We got,
What's that?
I'm sorry, that was,
No, no.
it was a joke.
Dues and subscriptions, is there any magazine you can cut out, Ron?
There are no magazines. Our magazines are free, but we do have a lot of memberships, in different organizations. We're part of the Gulf Ports Association or the Texas Ports Association.
These are
We're part of the American
professional-
Associated Port Authority. So that's where those costs. come.
Right.
But is there anything we can cut? We got rid of AAPA about several years ago because they charge you based upon tonnage and they wanted to charge us like some massive, like $2,000 a year. And we got rid of that. But the rest of them are minimal costs, really. Houston, TPA, Texas Ports Association does it by size of your port. So they only charge us like 600 a year.
Let's try and do the same thing we did this current year at 7,000.
Oh, yeah.
On dues,
Yeah.
7,000.
7, yeah.
They'll up it at 8. So
Yeah. Rental services.
rental services, those are if we have to rent a forklift or a crane or something like that. So it's just a fund I have set aside, hoping it always says zero use, but we need to make sure there's some money there in case we do have a
We
situation.
have 9,000.
Yeah,
You said-
but there's no
Oh,
expense.
zero. Okay, no, sorry, wrong,
That's fine.
wrong line.
You know, that used to be for generators to run
Exactly.
lift stations during.
And that's just part, but
we
that,
bought
we
generators.
bought our generators. We don't have to worry about
Yeah.
that. But I still have the reserve money set aside in case I need to get like a heavy lift
Yeah.
thing, or after a hurricane, we have to rent equipment to clean up debris and.
So
Okay.
you can cut that 12 to,
Well, we could put 10, I guess, as far as paperwork's concerned. But good, again, we hope we never touch it.
Yeah,
But,
that's it. Maybe we use it, maybe we don't.
right.
No equipment purchases, huh?
No, well, we don't have any equipment needs right now, but we probably could use a truck, but I don't think we're sitting in a situation to be able
Yeah.
to buy it.
Mm-mm.
Another year.
Yeah.
That's under vehicle purchase.
Yeah, I have zero there, so I don't think we need it.
Capital
We do
improvement,
need it, but
Yeah, see, that's where we need to move that
yes, that money.
675.
yeah,
Yeah.
it needs to go in capital
Yeah,
improvement.
so instead of 220, I'll put,
So what's the 220 you got in there, Ron?
it's just, in case something comes up, it's a lot of these numbers and they are numbers you see next to it have zeros because we don't use them, but I need to make sure the funds are identified, so we have it if we need it. So, but in this case, we'll just take that down from 675, we'll move it down there.
so we're,
Don't make it 900.
No, I'm gonna just make it.
yeah,
Make it
we're
700 or
moving
something, you know.
the 675 into that one,
Yeah,
into
yeah.
capital improvement. Okay,
So actually, we're cutting 220.
yes.
I like that, sir.
We're cutting the 220 to 675.
Well, but
No.
we're moving that.
We're taking the one at the top though. into
One of the, wherever that 675 is, here, right there.
Port maintenance.
Port maintenance,
Yeah, we're just gonna leave
because
that.
it's actually more capital improvement than port maintenance.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
for that type of money, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's that category.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's good.
All the cost, the appraisal district or the county's estimating on that. So that's good information we got.
Don't have an election this year, so.
See, turning that thing landscape causes a problem because there's so much stuff. I didn't realize that much stuff got chopped off.
The license and permits, went from 74 to 1,500.
License and
License and permits.
That's vehicles,
Oh, vehicle.
yeah.
Vehicle licenses and registries, we have permits, we have to get from the state for certain things we do. Frank to spray for mosquitoes, we have to have a permit for that.
DCEQ stuff.
This bank fee situation. Not mistaken, isn't the majority of that for people who want to pay their either lease or any other expenses that they might have from us on their credit card? And then the credit card company,
3%.
That's something we definitely should discuss. The PUD last year added it into their bill. So when a person pays the utility bill online, they get charged a fee, right?
Right.
But if they pay the navigation district bill, the lease payment online, they don't get charged a fee.
Right.
But we still eat that cost through the credit card company. And so back when we first started our online payment stuff, it was inconsequential. The amount of money that was being charged to us was nothing.
Right.
But now we get,
$9,000 a year.
but that's a charge. We're receiving 70%, maybe more, somewhere in that zone.
People that are
We
paying.
have 80% of our payments are being paid online now. And so because of that, that 3% amounts to a hell of a lot of money when you're talking we're collecting 300 some odd $1,000 a year, actually 600 some $1,000 a year. So we're paying 3% of $600,000.
So why can't we charge them a
We can.
3%
We can do-
convenience
We
fee?
changed that on.
I pay that every time I
Yeah.
pay my.
I do. When I'm in Brownsville, when I pay my
Yeah.
utility bill, I pay it.
Need to make sure that gets on the agenda though, for next, if
Yeah.
gonna make that.
Change that.
Well, let me add on the water bill, 'cause I don't
Mhm.
look at any of that stuff when y'all send
Yeah.
them in, but. Is it notated on there? How do y'all do that?
It's on the website. When you link in to the website and you go to make your payment, it tells you right on there. It says it on the website. It doesn't say it in your mail or.
So if your bill's $100, you're gonna pay 103.
Yeah, and it'll say-
You that on the
On
web.
the screen, when you log into,
On the bill.
no, it says it on the screen. When you log in, before you make a payment.
Yeah.
I tell you, when I paid my county taxes the other day in Cameron County, my
Okay, look.
cost share was $92 and some odd cents for the convenience fee of using a credit card. So
But we need to have a convenience fee on our.
Yeah.
I think if we did that, our brink charges will come way down. Yeah, it will help us out.
Okay.
So,
Well, I guess for now, we just need to leave that there
Until we,
until we can figure out a way to do it.
yes.
Yeah.
No, we can do it. We'll just do the same thing we did with the other one. The website will just change and when they log in,
have to have motion next meeting.
can you write that down, Letty, to make sure? Like,
Now, let's don't be fooled if we're gonna have majority of our residential income hit us in April or actually the next budget year. I don't know how much
I reduce it.
scenario we could actually reduce.
That's why I said just leave it in there for now until we get this implemented.
But at the same time, if we're not getting it then, this other income is coming in. It's kind of like,
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to have the
But you-
conception. We're gonna save $9,000.
no,
We're still gonna have,
I get it.
we're still gonna have to pay that.
It's gonna take another cycle.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, that number I didn't change,
Okay.
but on the residential lease income, I did drop that from 380 to 200, correct? I'm fixing to start typing into the machine here, so.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
We go
then,
380 to 200, is that not on the residential lease income?
say that again?
On the residential lease income, we dropped it from 380 to 200 because it comes in at the end of the year.
Yes, we did that.
We're basically staying with whatever.
Just gonna wait.
Pretty close to what it was.
Yeah, next budget cycle, we'll realize that.
Right.
And we can up that number then.
All right, last thing,
Fire department,
fire department.
We even have a fire department?
I have no opinion.
No, the answer is,
I remember
on
that
paper we do.
last year we talked about that they were almost like not existent.
Well, I went to their last meeting and, I just went as an observer and representing board, in case they did make a decision to make it a viable fire department, that maybe we could help them.
They didn't make that.
I've been a firefighter for 25 years and I have a real strong opinion about the fire department, so I don't know if I should be involved in this conversation or not.
well,
But-
but you should, because I mean, I have experience in the fire department. My dad started it back in Lasada, back in the days, and I was fire chief for 10 years. So I know what it takes and I know the responsibility and I know the commitment that it takes. And of course, the financial responsibilities and stuff. So we need your opinion in this thing because again, when we're talking about strategic planning, and we're looking at these businesses and all of that, it's gonna require a good fire department.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So-
These corporate companies that are coming in here, my brother, whatever you want to call it, North American Standards, whoever, when they come in, their insurance company is going to require them to have
Exactly.
those services available. Police, fire, and ambulance have to be there or they won't insure.
And I'm surprised that the state and the insurance companies haven't picked up on it, that we're not a viable fire department.
They're really good at dog.
No, it goes back to the same old thing, that's personnel. Any business you have, it all goes back to
You're
personnel.
right.
Well, I'll tell you this. The truck that we bought them last year or year before last,
Outfitted yet.
it's never been hooked to a fire hydrant. It's never been pumped. And up until 3 months ago, didn't even have any hose or apparatus on it. They have no ladders, no Halligan tools. They've got 2 air packs that I sent off and had them recertified. And, you know, and, Vickland made the comment the other day about they needed new air packs. My take on that is, I don't mind buying you an air pack or two, but I want to see the certification where the people are qualified to wear them. If you put an air pack on somebody that's not qualified, you'll kill them. That's a serious, serious thing. And I don't know that we even have a firefighter that's qualified to go interior. And this is my look at it.
What's their training plan? I mean,
They don't have
we,
a
we
training.
were involved with, Lower Rio Grande, Firemen's Association. I'd go to A&M Fire Training School
Right.
every summer.
Been there.
We'd get our certifications every time.
They don't do that.
Then they're not a fire department.
No.
They are not.
Walk right across
And
the
our-
street over there and talk to the fire chief from here, they'll tell you,
Yeah.
their office, their department does not respond to anything our department's at unless they're specifically requested. They will not go. If they're specifically requested, they will assist, but they will not respond.
Yeah, but assisting from a minimum of 45 minutes away.
I can tell you that when we
It's
had,
gone.
when the yacht,
It takes less than 8 minutes.
when the yacht burned 2 years ago, I got the phone call and called Frank Torres, the emergency manager, and told him, hey, dude, there's a fire at the port. Can you help me? And I was driving my personal truck at whatever limit I was going, which was not the one on the side of the road. And I got there, and within 3 minutes after I got there, they pulled in behind me.
And they put the fire.
And they put the
out.
fire before our guys could prime their truck, who had already been on scene.
They just, all they did was foam it.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of.
Frank sent me a picture of one of the boat was on fire and they were down there with the fire truck that wasn't putting out.
They
very
didn't know
much
what
water.
to do.
So I told Frank, I said, you need to remember something. Whatever water you put in that boat needs to come back out or you're gonna sink it. So they wouldn't got.
You know what their response was? No, their response to me,
They want to shoot holes in it.
I stood right there and was watching them and trying to coach them because I've only fought like 5,000 boat fires in my life. And I was like, do this, do that. And they said, "Been and got an axe." They said, "We're just gonna knock a hole in the bottom and let the water out."
Well,
I said, "Dude, the water's gonna go
Let the water in.
somebody had mentioned about getting the fire department over there and shooting holes in it.
Know which way you turn the nozzle,
So
We just dedicated our new fire station this last Friday for Old Ocean and that's been coming for 20 years. Well, we finally got a new fire station and I got to do the dedication because I was the oldest member. So it was pretty cool. We got a check for $500,000 from Phillips Petroleum.
We really need to sit down and have a conversation about our fire protection.
You know what?
Mm.
I agree with you 100%. And I'll tell you what I did last year. There was a guy, he's no longer there, but he was the head of the fire department, Mike Weed.
Yeah.
And I met the guy and I said, look, no, they just voted you into this position and you may not understand everything yet. So I encourage you to come to a meeting and ask any questions or make any comments you'd like and try and get, the board's support. Never showed up.
Yeah.
We made that request to Whitey Thompson here just in the last 4 or 5 months. Ron extended a personal invitation for him to come and address this thing. Didn't show up.
Mike was so frustrated with it. They had one of their meetings, he come by and talked to me about it. And I told him, I said, you just gotta lay the law down. You know, if you're not gonna get training and you're not gonna participate, then you need to get out.
Yeah.
And he kind of did that, and then half of them got up and walked out. They didn't want to deal with it, you know. I've offered, my son's a certified firefighter, he's an assistant fire chief. We've offered, I'll bring guys down here on the weekends and do training.
They have a real good training programs here in South Texas. At least they used to. I used to be part of it.
So they don't do any training.
So something to put on the agenda and have a conversation. Let's look at options. Let's see what it is. But in terms of money, I wouldn't budget anything for them based on what I just heard.
I had a good friend of mine that was, he's now the past president of the State Fire Marshal Association. And I asked him about it. I said, so what can we do? And he said, did they get any money from the state? I said, no. Did he get any money from the county? No. You can't do anything about it. You can't go over and tell them you can't be a fire department.
No, but we can do our own.
We can do our own.
Let them
And I got
wither and die.
a couple of trucks lined up ready to come down here.
I'm serious. We need,
Serious, I do.
it's about, I mean, we have a port and we have a community. It is our responsibility to provide some
And
safety
we
and security for both of them.
pay you ESD tax in port.
Yeah.
We don't get any money from ESD. And you know why? Because they don't keep any records of it. And same thing that the board told them a few years ago, we'll give you money, but we want to see where you're spending it. And they were refused to do it.
I remember we discussed that.
Yeah. Give us a financial report. They wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So if you're going to get money from ESD, then you got to start filling out paperwork.
Yeah.
You got to have show training records, you
Yeah.
know, even the county. But
Yeah.
now in our department, we went from going to a call and coming back and pulling in, put fuel in the truck, and you pull your own credit card out and put fuel in so you can make it to the station. Now that the ESD was implemented,
Bringing back memories, sir.
we get $175,000 a year from the ESD.
Yeah.
The ESD just bought us a $2.5 million fire station. So
Yeah,
the ESD's got a lot of money.
I think we're kind of walking on thin ice. Obviously, we need some kind of a fire department. And so we need to be careful about what we might directly say to them about.
Yeah, well,
ability.
it's a clique. You got the small group of guys that started the fire department ever how many years ago. And they're a tight knit group, but they don't want any changes. They don't want any advice from anybody.
Why does that sound so familiar?
Yeah.
The only thing that's for sure in life is change. And it's, whether we like it or not, it's moving that way.
Yeah.
Let's just
All right.
leave it there.
That's something else we can discuss later, I guess.
I think so.
We're gonna let it do.
I mean, they haven't approached us,
They have, well, the only thing that Ficklin mentioned is
air pack.
put in your budget for some air packs. Well, air packs are now $21,000.
That is amazing.
You know how much it costs to outfit a firefighter
Oh.
from head to toe? Almost $30,000.
I'm gonna have to go. I have a meeting.
Okay, I think we got enough.
I think, so. Yeah,
So we,
Thank you.
down to the bottom anyway.
we want to
See
see
it.
that one at zero for
I think so.
purposes.
Just, yeah,
Let's zero that out.
and we're gonna get some pushback on
Oh, yeah.
it. But, hey,
And that's okay.
that's not gonna be the only thing, so.
Perfect answer though is we posted, we're having budget meetings. This is second budget meeting.
Yeah. Nobody shows up.
Nobody's come up here to open it.
So Ron's gonna go rerun those numbers for us and see where we're at. You know, we know we're gonna have a very, very tight budget this year. It's like Ron said, this is the first time, but all these grants are catching up with us, and I'm just wondering if maybe if we could spread these things out a little bit more. You know, it is what it is.
You know, if you look down there on the very bottom where it says M&O funds, he's got projected 1,594,000. Actually, right now, we're sitting at 800,
Setting at about,
817.
Yeah, because we've made the adjustments. Yeah.
Where's this at?
Well, we paid out so much
Yeah.
on these things, that,
This is what's gonna kill us right here. And if hope, God help us if it does happen, if the bank says, no, we're not gonna give you a line of credit,
past the plate.
that's the plate.
What else can you
Yeah.
do?
And,
But-
and, you know, and that's where we, when I come to this thing and I think about this, I say, okay, what's the goal and what is it? Well, it's a dual thing. You have a port and you have responsibilities to bring in port business. And
Absolutely.
people may not like it, but there's a win-win because we also have a community and one can support the other and the other can support the other. And we have to find that medium.
Well, I think we
You
just,
know?
we need to plan a little better.
Yeah, well,
You know?
and it's been, you know, a lot of stuff have happened, but we're coming together and it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg? What comes first, the infrastructure or the business?
Yeah.
Well, you know, you have to take those risks. You know, at the end, I think if we continue planning, having conversations and not listening to crazy people, we're going to be doing well.
We just got to get through this next budget year.
Yeah.
And then I think after that, we'll be a little bit better shape.
And you know, and it's not only, I mean, school districts right now are strapped. A lot of organizations are strapped because it's just the nature of what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
But we'll survive it,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
We figure it out. That's what we're here
Keep-
for.
Keep the simple things in and the requirements and the fluffy stuff, take it out for now.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
So we'll let Ron run these new numbers and we'll look at it and see what else, if we need to cut anything out. I think we did a pretty good job.
Well, I think the big one was the adjustment between the actuals and the not discrepancy, but how the fiscal years are lined up and when we get the revenues.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a big one.
Well, the interest on these loan payments is, I'm really concerned about that.
Yeah.
Because if for some reason, you know, this company sends us an invoice for $2 million, well, we got the line of credit to pay it. What if it takes them 90 days or 120 days or 3 months to pay us back?
And that's where we need to really push a quick turnaround so that, I mean, if we can do it within 30 days, that'd be great, but surely not more than 60.
Well, that's why I mentioned a while ago is we need to get with this contractor and tell them, don't come up 3 months from now and give us a bill for $4 million.
Well, can we put a speculation on and say, hey, listen, if you go past 2.5 months or or you go all the way to 3 months, there's gonna be like a finance charge on you.
Yeah. I mean, we got
A
to,
little
I think what we need to do is just communicate with them. Ron needs to communicate with the contractor and say, hey, you know, if you know you're gonna bill us $2 million in 2 months, go ahead and bill us $1 million. And let's get the ball rolling, you know, so we get it coming in and going out. But
And they can forecast that if they can give us a tentative schedule of when they're gonna bill us and for how much, and we can use that information to plan.
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But to leave it alone where just see what shows up in the mail, no.
Yeah.
To go back to the other farm, because if I finish landscaping,
Yeah,
cuts
that's
off those 10 or 12 at the bottom. I did
Yeah, I just noticed a minute ago, it cut about a chip it off there.
it, so,
They were talking about stuff and we're going, I don't see
yeah,
that.
it's the same happened to me, so. But yeah, this now is all the.
Now we're only down 443,000.
Correct. We were actually, but I hadn't taken the residential leases and adjusted it yet. So when I made that adjustment, it was like, whoa.
That,
It went that
yeah,
number.
yeah,
Yeah, but that's.
No, it's reality.
that's the best way to do it.
Exactly.
Understanding that you may get
Yeah,
a
you may
little
have
win.
additional revenues.
Yeah.
So I guess we gotta make some tough decisions on where else. I think we ought to try to get this at least to zero.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we can get there,
I
but
don't think we've ever really seen that bit.
we need to get as close to zero as possible. This doesn't make any sense to me to have a budget and you start out in the hole.
No. That's not the game plan. Well. We got,
I think the person,
72,000 in marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell people, and we learned this with the school systems, when you want to cut back on expenses, you got to go to personnel.
Yeah.
That's usually where you're gonna save the
Big
most.
dollars, yeah.
Yeah, it's about 80% of your budget if you're a service organization. So with that said, where are we with personnel, and do we need everyone that's there right now? I mean, my district is letting people go, and many districts across the state. are
Frank's
letting
saying he
people
needs
go.
one more person.
yeah, there's still people
We're
soliciting
short on
more.
people.
I don't know that we need more, but I don't know that we can
No.
live with less.
Well, I mean, we don't.
And those that we have, are they in the position they need to be, and is it a position we need? Is my question.
Right seat in the bus.
Exactly. Because the board has changed. What it was, what it is, and what it's gonna be are three different things.
It's grown a lot and actually, I don't think we've added any personnel
No,
in
we
a
have
long time.
And just the level of expertise, the level of knowledge, the level of,
Well, that unfortunately, for us
Information.
as an organization, that would not be almost impossible to replace
Yeah.
because I'm gonna say 75% of our staff have been here greater than 20 years. So they have job knowledge that's never gonna be replaced. So we can't really approach it from that angle because everybody there is pretty senior as far as experience.
but where we're going, is that job knowledge, old knowledge, or is it knowledge that's
No,
gonna get us
it's,
into the future?
In our area, we have
Got some good folks down there.
Yeah, we got some
Guys
amazing
working.
people. I agree with that. I've been, my whole life working. These guys are dedicated. I
They
give
are.
them that.
I think the real question is it shared knowledge?
That's the problem.
Uh,
Because we have a lot of people having.
Do we have anybody that's
Thank you.
leave, we're gonna trade it.
I think Frank has gotten way better about working with Justin
And other.
and I think Justin's probably gonna be the one that's gonna take Frank's position whenever he leaves. He's been there, what, 40 years?
Oh, yeah, yeah. He's at least
Yeah.
right at 40,
Right at
38.
40 years.
Yeah.
But I think that's awesome. But it stirs another question. If he's been there 40 years, that tells me he's already probably 60.
He's 62 or 63.
So
Yeah.
he's pretty close to retirement age
He is.
himself.
Yeah, he is.
So who's behind him?
Yeah, well, we have that one pretty much identified as long as we can retain him and somebody
Yeah,
doesn't
well,
pull him away.
Well, is there?
We had that discussion too, is that, one thing we need to do is adjust these, the pay rates, the pay schedule. And, Albert's talking about maybe cutting personnel. We're talking about maybe giving them a raise.
No, I'm not saying cutting personnel. I'm saying that, in school systems, we have the paperclip syndrome. When they're financially in trouble,
Right.
they think by saving paper clips, they're gonna save themselves.
Yeah.
No,
No.
you need to hit it where it is.
That's right.
If
Well, I don't-
home is burning, you better get that bucket
I
of
don't
water.
think we have that luxury right now.
Yeah.
And well, and also Steve said earlier, we're only using, it's not an 80% range. We're in like the 25-30% range is our employee salaries. for
Yeah.
Our budget, so.
Got
But
20,
yeah, if we were at 70% salaries, I'd be like, no, we gotta get rid of.
27, and that's not a bad number.
No.
I mean, you
And-
stay under 30% on your burden rate, you're doing pretty good.
But the second thing I said is, are these based on where the port is, and it has changed based on where we are now, are these positions what we need? I'm not saying that, I'm just
Yeah, yeah,
asking,
yeah.
posing the question,
Yeah.
are they what we need? And, or have they outdated themselves, but we still haven't, because that's what we've always done.
Correct. No, I would say that we only have 2 supervisors or foremen, whatever term you want to use for it. We have 1 superintendent. The only person who fits a billet by title that we just inherited it, that doesn't necessarily do the job, is the harbor master, but she still has her function. She just doesn't serve as a harbor master. So we may need to change her title and her responsibilities won't change. But is she a harbor master? Not by definition of a harbor master. But is she necessary and an essential member of the team?
Well,
Yes, I would
absolutely,
say she
yeah.
is. So, but yes, you're correct. As far, are they doing the job that their job description says they do?
Yeah.
Almost everybody does, except for the one.
And that might be something that we wanna
When
look
we
at
do
and
our personnel
adjust.
manual review, I
Yeah.
think that's what we
Yeah.
should bring up,
Yeah.
and make that part of that.
I think you made a note of that yesterday. Yeah.
So,
I would look at those line items where we said, let's keep it at 7 when you only spend 2,000
Right.
and cut those off.
oh yeah, we can certainly do that.
I would go with what has been realized and,
Right.
and what has actual and stay with that.
Mhm.
That's where I would start.
Yeah, the one that's 75,000, that I don't remember why it's 75,000 under maintenance. I don't, may easily drop down to the 15, 14,000 that we actually use this year. So I just can't remember why I put 75.
I thought we were gonna go to zero on fire department.
Oh, I haven't, you said that while I was out of.
Yeah,
Yeah, we went to zero, so you can take another 20 grand out of that.
that's all. What about the maintenance 75?
Yeah, I don't remember what that number
Yeah,
is.
What it was, what
Yeah,
it
so we'll just drop it down to, 18
To
or 20.
15.
Yeah, well, that's, I budgeted 20 every year I can
Yeah,
remember.
I think we went down to 20 on
Yeah,
this.
we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only new expense we have that we've never had before really per se is our marketing thing. We've never had that item. So it's always been zero or it's always been like 20 grand, but it was the money we would pay to just odd projects. But we've never had a person dedicated for that fund, so.
That's something we need to look at.
I believe that there was a email that I received stuck in you guys' packages from MPC offering a counter to Border Affairs, but that's,
And they're the ones that's already managing.
they're the one that runs all of our stuff. Now, I did not know MPC had the capacity to do anything other than website management. I thought that's what they did. But apparently they are much more diverse than that. And they sent an email because as they are now listening to this conversation, they're listening to the conversation the other day when we had our public meeting. And so they responded based upon Humberto Garza's comments during the public.
Yeah, I think that's something we need to look into because it's gonna be way cheaper. Like,
Yeah, but we want to look at what is it that we're going to be doing,
Right,
and
and you have it there in front of you.
yeah.
Office supplies could probably come down to 2,500 from 5,000. Office expenses, we can take that to 7,000 from 14. Cause I don't think we're gonna be buying any new equipment anytime soon. Unless something breaks.
On miscellaneous, I thought we went down to 2,000.
Miscellaneous. I did. It was 75,000. Oh, no, we're gonna pick it 2,000 now. But I left it on there initially because I can't remember why I put 75, but since I can't remember, it must not have been that damn important. So we'll take it.
But on miscellaneous, you have 20,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, I
we,
put 20,000. Oh, I
Yeah.
should have put, okay, yeah,
Yeah, maybe one extra zero.
yeah, I put it.
Put an extra zero.
Yeah, I did.
So it should be 2,000, because
Yeah.
I have 2,000.
Yeah, yeah,
a
no.
little bit of difference.
Just a little.
You know, we talked about changing just the terminology, but it makes sense, marketing
Yeah.
to media.
Oh, that's right. We did.
Remember?
Yeah, yep, I do.
Because if you look down here where promotion and publicity, that's the same thing as marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's a big expense,
Yeah,
you know.
I think we need to find out what, MPC offers.
Well, you guys have his offer, or his idea.
Yeah,
You guys wanna look over,
there's no money attached to it that I can,
well, not much anyways.
I mean, no, I mean, he doesn't.
Well, he says on there that we're currently paying in this amount, that gives us 20 hours a month of service or whatever.
Oh, we're already paying for.
We're already paying for part of this. He said there might be a moderate increase for, based upon hours served or whatever.
You know, maybe it's something we need to consider postponing till the next budget cycle,
What is?
the $72,000.
No, I'm not gonna agree to that because we have been bombarded by all kinds of negative crap out in the community. And we're moving forward, at least the way I see, it, we're moving forward with the port commerce, taking care of the community and everything. And we just need the right people to do the right things.
I don't think he was suggesting that, though. I think we all
But
really,
we need it.
we need to have that.
We need it
You read the Facebook me last
now.
Dollars worth.
I'm sorry?
We need $72,000 worth if we can get it for 20.
Well, you know, where were they before? If we've been paying them all this time and they didn't do that, all of a
Well, I
sudden
didn't
now they
understand
want to
Didn't
do it?
ask them to do
I
it.
don't think so.
Didn't ask them to do it.
Yeah.
So I can make 3 more adjustments here that'll change. 10. $85,000, I guess, will come off based on the adjustments we just made.
Now, going back to, I know in the commercial leases, we get them at a certain times. Is there, I think one of the things that's hurting us in the budget is that we don't get this chunk or this group of money
Right.
till the end of our fiscal year.
That's right.
But is there a way that we could change it where instead of kind of similar to the commercial lease? So that we're getting the money when we need it versus at the end of the fiscal year, of our fiscal year.
From,
Would that help us? I mean, the money is there,
yeah, it just.
but it's
going to be there.
We can't
It's
reach
gonna
it.
be
and touch it.
Well, we hadn't had that problem because didn't have any lease changes as far as rates going up. And this was such a big increase that
Yeah, it's gonna be no,
it's gonna take a year for it to cycle back in. Yeah.
yeah, but I
But we
think,
know we're gonna get that money at the end of the year, so if we're saying we're $400,000 short and we know we got another 180,000 or whatever that number is, we kind of keep that in the back of your mind that we're gonna get half of that at the end of the year.
at the end of the year.
yeah, this number will go up by roughly $200,000 worth of revenues by the time we have this meeting next year. But when it comes for spending money throughout the year,
We don't have it.
Yeah.
it'll look good on paper a year from now, when we
Yeah.
go back and sit down.
Yeah.
But to answer your question is, everybody has their lease payment schedule. Any new leases, we could certainly say, oh, your payment is due on. I've always, when I first got here, it let a while to teach me that we bill in a cycle. So we bill leases, this, commercial here and residential here, and that's just the way it's done. And it makes sense for them in bookkeeping, because then they know we bill this all
Sure,
month.
of course.
But,
It
I
simplifies.
mean, theoretically, when I first got here, they sign a lease in January, then they pay again next January. Well, that doesn't work that way. It's only on a certain date. That would be the easiest way to fix it, because then we could get payments all the time. But the
Yeah,
problem
but
is that
that
we need
makes-
a full-time
that's not
clerk
work on
sending
that.
out
No,
bills every
no.
damn time.
Yeah, no,
So
no.
that doesn't work, so.
You'd go crazy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, let them go crazy.
Go crazy.
You wanna adjust this again?
I will make the 3 changes.
Is there any other changes y'all wanna
I
make?
have 3 that I.
Add a line on revenue for lottery wins, put $1 million in there.
Yeah,
See, for 15 years, I've been trying and it ain't worked yet.
They
It's a
say-
big, long-
They say that gambling is for those that didn't master math.
Oh, then,
I think we've made some pretty good progress though. It doesn't make sense.
Means we've got to be better than the budget.
Yeah. Well, and we still haven't figured in the interest on these loans. I mean, that could be in the thousands of dollars. When you start borrowing money on $1 million or $2 million, at, 7 or 8%.
Yeah.
You're talking about $70,000 or $80,000 just in interest on $1 million. And that's only if you keep it out for 45 or 60 days.
Well, I guess the good thing is we do have a little bit of cash, and then we got 800,000 in M&O funds. And we should be getting, according to Virginia, another pretty good little
Yeah.
check in.
And sometimes, as you all know, sometimes you have to dip into that,
Yeah.
but not always, but sometimes you have to do that just to,
It's there if we have to.
Yeah.
But,
and.
and saying that, I think that needs to be a board decision.
Yeah.
We have to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's part of the budgeting process.
Pay it through the M&O fund or use line of credit. We need to establish that.
As long as it goes back into that fund,
Yeah.
doesn't wind up somewhere else,
And that's where the amendments and all of that is critical in terms of board approval, so we know where we should say where it goes and we know where it went.
No, excuse me.
Okay. I mean, ever so often, you're gonna have to approve a deficit budget, knowing that you may have little slush fund, but it can only be a one-time thing here and there, because it'll catch up and bite you. I am gonna, we're almost done, right?
on that, Steve, on that, on with AEP, that they wanted us to, put, gravel on the alley so they could service.
As far as we can tell, there's no mention of it being gravel or caliche or anything like that. It just said an accessible right of way. So, I think if we just clear all the brush and trees out and keep it mowed.
My
it's all gonna be
alley,
Fine for,
It should
My-
suffice.
my alley, if I would have to go with a Homer, you know what I mean? But they've been replacing on my alley, they replaced 3 poles, and that's just one block. They were with their trucks there. So that's been in the back of my mind.
yes. Oh, no, they can get everything now, it's fine. They're just saying, well, case of a hurricane and we had 20 inches of rain and we got poles down, we can't get to them to bring it.
They would need a boat and not a truck.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Newport subdivision?
So, but it's not,
Holes,
One pole.
Yeah,
not a lot of,
Yeah.
not a lot of roads.
So everything is underground?
no.
that's the
So-
best.
But so my question is, Steve,
There's holes.
why did they
Transformers
change
are
the
holes
plan
of the ground,
from underground to?
then leading
Why did they
to
do that?
Well,
the properties are
And
underground.
whose decision was that?
I'm kicking that around right now.
Because I know when we've built facilities in schools, we had engineers talk to us about any changes that they were coming. Versus here, it's,
Well, what I got from Ron was contract, there was a contract provision where the transformers were above ground, but what went to the individual properties was underground.
not the underground lining and then to the transformer and then to the. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
It's- That's
That's the way it is now.
that's the way it is now. So it was never supposed to be the other way.
According to
not
AEP,
what I saw.
Okay,
according to AEP, it was supposed to be that way.
this way, the way it is.
It's been under.
Well, but what you're seeing was not that.
No, what I read was that the transformers were on the ground.
And the line to the house is underground, but the wiring comes to the transformer on top.
Yes.
That's what the contract says.
Right.
So why are we expecting the opposite?
I don't know.
We are, other people were making.
Ah,
And I don't know if y'all read the article about the sewer line with supposedly AEP drilled a hole through our sewer line. That didn't happen.
Did not. They
And-
fixed it and we had to leave.
Nicked a 4-inch tap. So it was not the main sewer line.
I don't read that
Well,
junk.
But anyway, yeah, I didn't hear about it this morning, so they told me about it. But yeah, they called me and we had people on scene within minutes after it happened and it was fixed instantly, so. But of course, it's a melodrama.
and it's not a 12-inch line, it's an 8-inch. So they got all of it wrong. I guess y'all read about my great nail guy adventure. Did you read that one?
Pages and pages of information,
No.
all erroneous.
90% of that was wrong. The only thing you got right is I did go out there.
Club, sir.
Huh?
Yeah. Live and breathe in that every day.
Man, they've been ripping me pretty hard last month.
Yeah.
I just grin and sit back in my chair and
In my training in conflict resolution, I learned one simple thing. Who said it? So what?
yeah. Yeah. Got to where it doesn't bother me anymore.
So what? Okay.
So that's the
Down to
changes.
361.
Yeah,
I don't think we can,
no, you're not
there's
gonna.
not much more. we
Okay,
can do.
but remember, the revenue will be realized.
Yeah, $200,000 will go
Okay,
against that.
so it's not really 361. It shows this, but the revenue will be realized at about 200,000.
Yeah, roughly.
So you're talking,
Yeah, so we're the only ones that know that, but
Yeah,
somebody else looks at the budget, they're gonna go, you know,
well, it is what it is.
it is what it is. You're right.
so for the purposes of the next meeting, we want to vote or take action on,
Proving the budget.
well, yeah, but we have to approve a couple of things first.
Yeah.
The fees for the credit card. What was the other one, Lindsay, that I had?
The 5% or the
Debris
the
fee.
debris fee.
The debris fee.
Increase.
What, we're gonna, on
We
the,
need to decide how much we want to go up on that, on the debris fee.
Yes,
We said we were gonna go up.
75.
75.
Budget purposes, but yeah.
the airport fund,
Yeah, we really need to make sure we have enough money to cover those.
What are you thinking, Lefty?
Well,
I think maybe 125 or 150 a year. You think that's too much?
They got too big of a jump?
I think you're gonna get.
Anything above 100, I think you'll get a lot. Now, next year we can go up another 25 or another 100.
Yeah.
but what is it costing us?
Oh, no, we have to do
What is
analysis.
it? Let's do a cost analysis and let's make a decision based on that.
The other thing we have to look at too is not everybody uses that.
And that's just,
Not everybody uses that debris fee,
No,
you know.
they
Yeah,
call
lot.
in and say.
You might have
Improvement.
50% of the population that actually uses it.
But you still, we have the wear and tear on the equipment.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't use debris.
Yeah, if they have lots out there, which is a lot of people, they don't use the debris.
They have big.
And even people who are just weekend warriors.
They hardly ever.
around for most of the year, they don't.
Yeah, rental houses and all that. There's probably maybe a fourth of us that actually use it. You know, we trim our trees or whatever.
Personally, I think going from 50 to 75 is appropriate. Next year we'll go to
100.
100.
100, yeah.
You know, we'll keep hammering them, but little chunks. I think it'd be a lot easier for the public to swallow.
$25 more.
Well, the numbers that you have now are based on $75.
But I still want to do a cost.
No, well, I think the analysis is a great idea. Because there's a lot of factors that we're talking about here that I wasn't even thinking about the fact that not everybody uses it,
And
which
this
is
is
true.
just for debris, right?
Yeah, it's only debris. If it's branches, it doesn't get taken to Edinburgh, so there's no truck cost for that, and there's no disposal cost because we have a gigantic 5-acre pile of branches out behind the airport that's full of all the branches from town. And so
Environmentally correct.
we, oh, no, that's correct. We're doing what we're saying.
Hey,
Building sand dunes.
So we're diminishing the sand so they don't blow.
Yeah. It'll go in my.
All right, all
Well,
right.
So
I,
we are as we are.
I like the
yeah.
incremental increase.
And we'll do the same thing on the boat stall leases.
Yeah.
You know, we'll do the 5% this year and next year we might go up 3% or
May go up
or another
10.
5.
Yeah,
Or
may go
10%.
Yeah, I think it'll probably more likely go to 10 just to catch up.
But that's something we need to address then.
And with state, our goal is to reach $10,000 over the next 5 years.
I would like for you to, let us know on the other,
will.
facilities. That way,
yeah,
if they come to me and say, hey, this is ridiculous.
You're getting a sweet
Go,
deal.
go.
I can promise you, nobody's going to give up their boat slip.
No, that's a fact.
No, not at
That's
all.
absolutely a fact.
I don't care if it goes to $5,000. I'm not giving up my boat slip.
Motion made, second.
Damn. I gotta quit opening my mouth.
All right.
One of the things that just to check on, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you got these recorded. See if we can potentially piggyback with the county on the.
Oh, yes,
medical
airport.
insurance.
Yeah.
That'll save us money if it.
There was 2 things for Peter. One was that, oh, employee insurance.
Yeah, employee.
Employee insurance and airport.
And then maybe get our IT gurus to see if there's any potential we could dedicate part of that.
Server for.
Well,
for-
I've already had ideas that have been sent to my email since this meeting started that,
Normally they can say, okay, that's typically a C drive,
Yeah.
but you can have a D and E and an F.
nowadays, everything's stored on the cloud. My only, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's the way to go nowadays. Everybody does it.
yeah.
I mean, you can't even buy a computer or laptop that has more than 250K of freaking
So
capacity.
if you have a day where there's no clouds in the sky, how does it go to the cloud?
I don't know how it gets there, but
How's it
everybody
get there?
gets there.
If it's a sunny day,
I'm still trying to
It
get.
holds it
some-
until the sun comes up.
Was that the,
Really, some.
Kamala was, they interviewed her talking about the cloud and she goes, and it's all up there somewhere.
Yeah. And you don't mind pulling that Milner
Oh, the airport, yeah.
hanger, I just out of curiosity.
It's been so many years since I've.
So-
What kind of condition is that?
They've
It's
built
awesome.
that.
It's freaking awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not a jet.
We could have offices.
Years and years ago, when they were out here.
No, not.
And he built that hangar.
but he's not here, right? He lives.
He's not here.
Mr. Lee and Mr. Milner, the one that owned it originally is
I
deceased.
like Albert's idea about getting with the county and see if
Partner up.
maybe make it a county airport.
I'm gonna visit with Peter here in the next couple of days for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I'll talk to him about the employee insurance and about the airport. Same.
Yeah.
And I bet we could access some funding from someplace.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And they got 2 county parks out there. They might as well have county airport.
county airport.
Yeah.
There's a lot of towns that have county airports.
Oh, no, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Warden County Airport. I drive by there every time I go to Houston.
This is the only one between here and Edinburgh. Edinburgh has
Heck,
an airport, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's the only one.
And I don't know with the county, they may want, if they were to decide to do that, maybe they want an incremental, fee, to land there.
Mhm.
Well, yeah,
The airport charge you to land.
Oh, absolutely.
In fact, most of them do unless
Actually,
it's.
if you fly into Harlingen right now, it costs you $120 in a small airplane the size of coming to our airport. If you go to Brownsville, it's $200 to land. at the airport. Just to land.
Yeah.
That's a stay overnight. That's the land.
$12.50 a year,
$1,250.
Who does?
hanger. Milner.
Million.
Well, right, $1,250.
I mean, obviously, we can't afford to tackle that problem right now.
Well, no.
But it's something we need to think about.
It'd be nice if we own that.
Yeah.
Because if the drone people keep falling through the cracks the way they have been, and I can say that with one of my family members being one of their senior employees, and I've already told them, well, I'm done with you guys. You're not doing crap. And see, once they're gone, there's no reason for us
Well-
not to go to the Milners and say, you got to hang
Sure,
it.
there's people that would lease it.
What's
I
the
think so.
building back behind that?
That is UT RGV's Black Hole Research something. That's actually credited with being the. place
Never
that
seen
invented-
anybody there.
They don't, it's because everything's remote. I asked them to begin making process plans to vacate because if we ever develop that, they're in the way and they have that. The building is just a building. That's just a piece of it. Out in the field behind the building are these little
Yeah,
white
they got-
teepees that are about
seen
4
those.
feet tall
Yeah.
and they're all pointing in the sky. And that's how they did their black hole research.
You're looking
And
for
that
Indians.
takes up a lot of the area we would want to build on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you're gonna have to phase that out over the next few years. And
One may be a good woodworking shop.
it's a humongous.
That's me.
All
facility.
my equipment over there.
We've actually stored cars in there a few times. They got pissed.
And, at that time, if they pull out, we.
Oh, no, we could leave somebody else. It's actually on our
They
paper.
own the building.
Called the SpaceX. No,
They don't own that building?
SpaceX built that building. When SpaceX built that building and they built the one in Boca Chica at the same time. And then they bid to the federal government, where can we put our facility? So SpaceX chose Boca Chica Beach over over Port Mansfield. But Port Mansfield was on the last 2 locations in the country to build SpaceX.
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, but that building was built by SpaceX. And then when they got the lease to go to Boca Chica, they just abandoned it and gave it back to the navigation.
Oh, okay, good. So that's, we own that.
We have it. That's ours, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what I was trying to establish.
Oh, it's ours.
Yeah. And the 2 rental buildings, I guess, whenever they leave, they'll have them come pick those up.
Oh, yeah, they'll haul them. They're very well installed. They have sewer, water, they have everything. It's a nice facility they got in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the biggest problem they have is the wind blows the doors open. They just sit open for weeks before they realize it.
Ron, one time you were having conversations with us about extending the runway to include a different type of jet and
Yeah, it's different kind of aircraft.
we're gonna have to have conversations with the ranch.
Mhm.
Purchase of land.
Yeah, no,
Or-
we was
or-
wanting, trying to give them the deed as a couple 100 acres so we could reach 5,000 feet. But I mean, we don't have a destination for that anymore. The
Yeah.
commercial company that was on discussing that with me is now no longer on our radar. They've gone away. We got rid of them. So that avenue isn't necessarily there.
No, okay.
Now, I did get a phone call in the last 30 days from a gentleman who wants to move to the valley. He lives in the Dallas area now. He operates a private plane company and he's called me up asking about hangars, what if you could build hangars and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you could, but you're not gonna have much runway, but at least not for the near future. Also on Monday, I sent a note to TxDOT or TxDOT Maritime asking to take the airport expansion money off the table. And there was like 48 projects for this legislative cycle. We're like number 46. And I'm like, 1, we're probably not gonna get picked, and 2, we don't need the $12 million responsibility to pay a copay on it.
Yeah.
So I asked them to remove us from the contention for airport expansion.
I know there's been a,
Shop on the airport.
I
I think that's
I
a
think so.
great idea.
Yeah.
One last thing that, need to put on the agenda for the 3% increase online payments.
I think you wrote that.
Yeah,
down.
I did, I have it down. Yeah,
It's just, yeah, I want
Yeah.
to make sure he had it on the.
Yeah, it's on there.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. I think it's been productive.
On our next meeting, I will not be able to make it. I'll have surgery on the 27th.
Thanks.
Bad
Yeah.
luck, buddy.
Depending how.
But before you take off. You hit the 2 images there to shut everything down.